workshop, but regular council meetings, you have given tremendous feedback. Even at the last one, in which you had the draft budget for 2 weeks and you had time to give us questions that we answered at that time. And I want to thank you, because it shows that you are looking closely at the municipal budget, which totals over $62 million. I want to thank the executive team who are sitting here tonight, who are not sitting here tonight. Every department head, I want to say thank you for stepping up and submitting your base budgets, for going back and looking at details when asked, so that we had firm numbers that we could explain, and that we were being very diligent in the allocation of taxpayer dollars. With that, I will. That's right, you go down, not up. And this is the overview of the presentation. Let me jump right in. As I just said, you are a municipal corporation of $62 million on an annual basis, with the general fund now growing to $23 million. When I joined in 2021, it was roughly $20 million. So in just a 24-month period, we've grown about 15% in just our general fund, the largest fund. And you can see how that follows underneath the general fund. Since our last meeting in August, this PowerPoint and your cover sheet highlights some changes that have been made. So we need to make sure, I need to make sure that you understand those changes. And if council says we don't want to do these changes, then your direction tonight is to remove that from the budget. But let me walk through the changes. In the general fund, we moved 1 FTE from PD investigations to PD patrol, and we talked about that at the last council meeting. We removed an additional police officer from PD patrol, but again, that's related to the conversation we had at the last council meeting, where there was a numerical error in the budget, and we corrected that. We added a full-time crime victims liaison position, salary and benefits, training, and material costs. The cover sheet explained that back in May, council approved a resolution, or approved us applying for a grant that would fund a portion of a full-time position. We received word that that grant was awarded on August 25th. That was 3 days after your last council meeting. So that's why this change is being made in your final form. How does that pan out? You can see the revenue is $49,500. That's the money from the grant. The total cost is $94,500. If you look underneath that row, though, there's a remove funding to City of Schertz for shared crime victims liaison for 3 quarters. So we have to give them 90-day notice. That means we're going to pay them for the first quarter of FY24. We're saving $35,000. So when you add up the $50,000, I'm going to call that $50,000 from the grant, and the $35,000, we have $85,000 for making this a full-time position. We also identified the benefits of that position in your FY24 budget highlights, the handout that just went around to all of you. The benefits to our residents who are victims of crime or abuse, and the ability for us to serve them more promptly and on a full-time basis. Again, it's your decision whether or not to keep it in the budget. So that total general fund, the changes since your last meeting, the revenue last time was shown at $23,262,414. It has been changed to $23,311,914. And you can see corresponding expenses off to the side there. Those expenses went down about $30,000 to just over $23 million. On the debt service fund, we also made tweaks to that. We increased property tax revenue from the frozen tax levy. That was not in the draft version that you had in August. So revenue went up and expenses increased payment for defeasance bonds. So that's an expense. We're making extra payments on the defeasance of bonds. That's a good thing. We're lowering the interest payments over the lifetime of the debt. The changes continue on this page, and this is the last page of changes since our meeting. At the last meeting, you actually gave us direction on how to structure the water rates and the acquisition fees. What you see on this chart reflects your direction to staff in the water wastewater fund. In the grants fund, we reduced services, utilities, and training for the winter skating event because you gave us that direction. We reduced services, utilities, and training strategic partnership grants. That was direction that you gave so that it was a $10K in the general fund, and that's reflected there. In the street maintenance tax fund, we removed the pavement management study and reallocated that to the street maintenance total funding in FY24. So that means we'll have $775,000 allocated just for street maintenance.
I have a quick question on this section.
Yes.
Before we get too far away from it. So in the general fund, it looks like we have a difference of $306,000 between revenue and expenses. Is that accurate?
$3 million.
No, we have $23,311,914 in revenue,
So,
and then $23,005,583 in expenses. That's about $306,000.
Anna will answer that
So we're
question.
that's going to reflect an increase to fund balance and to make sure that we keep that 28% reserve threshold.
Okay, so that's already earmarked for reserve. It's not like
Right.
I can shove that street pavement plan back in there. I'm gonna keep pushing for it, y'all.
And the street council can, I mean, we're at about 28.2% in our fund balance, so, you know, there's a tiny bit of wiggle room, but that is 28% fund balance, maintaining that.
Thank you.
And I'll point out, remember, council, you had a 35% fund balance where you had to keep cash on hand. And in our previous budget cycles, last year, you reduced that to the 28% because we become a larger corporation with more funds. And it didn't make sense just to keep money under a cushion, if you will, doing no good. So reducing it by 7% has allowed you to allocate more money to services to serve your community. This is just your dollar bill. We'll make this available also so that people can understand that for every dollar received, what's the percent that goes to police, to fire, to the administration, to public works? How much do these major services in the general fund cost? And I'd just like to point out that the police and fire are roughly $11.75 million. Almost half of every dollar goes to providing public safety to our residents. Roughly half of every dollar is just for public safety. And so when people ask, where do my dollars go? In the general fund, your answer can be, let me show you where that money goes.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Anna did some math for me, and you would expect that from a finance director. So I'm going to point out that's 51 cents for police and fire, 20.5 cents for administration. Public works is 15 cents, 12.5 cents for planning and building services, and 1 cent for economic development. And that's the way you arrive at a $23 million budget, but allocated across every dollar that comes in. What are some other things that are in the budget that may be of interest to you and to the public? The 88th legislature of the Texas passed House Bill 3, which many people may have heard of, required school districts to put armed personnel into public schools, every campus that has students in there. What was not well understood at the time is that there was an obligation for schools to only pay for their pro rata share of those law enforcement individuals. So there are only so many number of school days in a year. They could only pay for those number of school days. The balance would be paid some other way. In our community, we have a relationship with the school district in which they really want law enforcement officers in the buildings that are part of the team that would be responding in the event of an incident that none of us here want to think about. And you as a council said you wanted to find a way to make sure that we funded that. That is in your budget, and the cost is $129,000 in addition to costs that we had been carried in the past. I've already talked about the victim coordinator and liaison position and the grant. This is breaking that down again. You passed a resolution back in May. We received notification 3 days after your last meeting, and so we've included that in the budget, again, with a balanced budget. Personnel highlights, these have remained the same since our last meeting, and that is we're maintaining market competitive compensation to attract and retain top talent. We've added positions that are on this screen, not just in the general fund, but also in the utility fund. You see the 2 utility operators. We're providing a 3% performance pay pool. That's for all employees, not just those in the general fund. We do have increased healthcare costs. We have decreased workers' compensation based upon the safety record of the city. And then we have an increase in our retirement contribution to the Texas Municipal Retirement System, also known as TMRS. And while those are our personnel highlights, we also want to say that Cibolo is a very fiscally prudent city in the amount of employees we have per capita. We're providing services and improving those services while maintaining a low employee per capita ratio when we look at comparable cities in the San Antonio metro area. And so we're doing more with less, and we find that we can achieve high performance even with this lower employee ratio. The defeasance program, as I've spoke to earlier on the changes where we were accounting for this in our final form of the budget, Council last budget and now this budget has decided that it makes sense to keep our INS or our debt tax rate at 17.93 cents out of your total 46.99 cent tax rate should you adopt that tonight. By doing so, you're collecting more money than our debt schedule requires, but you're doing it with a purpose. The purpose is to pay off roughly $1.1 million of debt sooner rather than later. And like us in a mortgage, if you pay down your principal, the interest gets smaller. And so I'm very proud that Council is saving our taxpayers over $414,000 in interest over the life of our debt by doing a defeasance part in your budget. You've continued to support Cibolo Fest, and we have included the costs that you've asked for from the general fund to support the Cibolo Fest so that it is a flagship special event that we can be proud of, that gives our residents and the surrounding area for that matter an opportunity to enjoy what the city of Cibolo is all about, a family-oriented event and lots of fun. The strategic partnership grants, after Mr. Huggins gave a presentation to you about starting a more formal strategic partnership grant program, you directed us to include $10,000 in the budget for that, and that's what this is all about. We will, by January, have an application and a deadline for organizations to come to the city and ask for a share of that $10,000. You will be making the decision on who and how much is awarded. You also had several strategic plan priorities that have been captured in this budget. You want to improve our ability to understand the fiscal impact of new growth and development, as well as our future land use map. So we have funded a fiscal impact model. You want to understand our retail market. That is, what is the potential for more retail in our city? What is the disposable income? What industries in retail are we most apt to attract because there's not already stiff competition in this area, and much more. We will be conducting that study this year. We're also conducting an IT strategic plan so that we can think multiple years out on what this organization needs across all departments, and that the technology that we're implementing today or thinking about acquiring works cohesively and in an enterprise fashion so that we're being very strategic and prudent in acquiring IT. You've also talked a lot about ensuring that we're doing the best we can as an organization to provide top-rated fire protection services in our city. And we need to understand where are our strengths and where are our weaknesses. The Fire ISO study will be a study by a consultant who comes in and works very closely with Fire Chief Troncoso and others to understand the lay of the land today, and but when we have an ISO study in the very near future, how can we improve for that future ISO study and rating? We've talked about the strategic partnership grants, the resident survey. In fact, we have on the agenda tonight for you to give feedback to Dr. Longoria from the Texas State University on the city's first resident survey. The City Hall, you're funding furniture to go in there. The fiber to city facilities, you made whole a project that had a gap in funding. The animal services facility, while council's given us direction to place on the November 2024 ballot, which you will take action in the summer of 2024 to actually do that. You said in the meantime, we need to do something to the existing facility. You have set aside $500,000 to improve the existing facility until we know what the voters want to do with a future facility. You have funded a Parks and Recreation Master Plan. With the completion of the comprehensive plan in very early first quarter 2024, we will kick off a Parks and Recreation Master Plan that looks at that future land use map. It looks at our existing conditions, looks at our existing parks, and gives us a strategy of how to strengthen parks and recreation in our community. And that can become part of your strategic plan and action items in future years. You also funded a downtown master plan that is coming from the EDC fund. And that will replace the existing one, if you will, update it and replace it. I talked about earlier and thanked you for your work on your 5-year capital improvement projects. I won't belabor this one, but this shows you how it's split across those categories from streets, wastewater facilities, fleet, parks, and water. And you can see the amount allocated by year. We have an ambitious FY24 5-year capital improvement plan. And in FY24, you're funding 17 projects that look like this across those categories. And looking at the specific projects, they are these. And your staff is here to tell you we are committed on delivering on our promise of delivering on these projects. And so we will be working even more prudently and efficiently in FY24 to advance these projects. And these. That's the end of the presentation. Ms. Miranda and I are here to answer any questions that you may have on your FY24 budget. This is merely the public hearing. If there are any questions from you or the public, we will be available to answer. You have an ordinance later on the agenda to adopt your FY24 budget.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Okay. Okay, the time is now 6:56. I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing for 6A. This is regards to the city budget. If anyone in the audience would like to come up to the microphone and provide any commentary about our proposed city budget, please come on up. Hearing none, I will close the public hearing at 6:56 p.m. Thank you, Ms. Miranda. Thank you, Mr. Reed. Okay, moving on to 6B, the City of Cibolo City Council will conduct a public hearing to hear public testimony regarding the tax rate for tax year 2023. Ms. Miranda.
Thank you, Mayor. The second public hearing tonight is regarding the tax rate. Annually, the state requires that we provide truth in taxation calculations. They are prepared by our tax assessor collector with information provided by Guadalupe Appraisal District. For the benefit of those attending tonight, as I know you guys have heard this several times already during our budget process, the no new revenue tax rate is the tax rate which would produce the same amount of tax revenue if applied to the same properties in both years. The voter approval tax rate is the maximum rate allowed by law without voter approval. The proposed budget is based on a tax rate of 46.99 cents, which is equal to the voter approval tax rate and does require a public hearing, tonight's public hearing. Our tax rate is made up of two components. The M&O rate, or for maintenance and operations, is used to fund the general operations of the city, such as public safety, public works, parks and recreation, development services, and administration, and all of that is in the general fund. Interest and sinking, or our INS rate, is used to pay debt service, principal and interest on tax-supported capital projects. For history, tax rate history, we've shown the last 4 years and tonight's proposed tax rate alongside other cities in our region. You can see that Cibolo falls in the middle of our surrounding cities in terms of tax rate. What does our tax rate mean to a Cibolo homeowner? A homeowner with an average home value of $334.5 thousand, and that's per Guadalupe Appraisal District certified tax roll, will pay approximately $1,572 in municipal ad valorem tax based on the proposed tax rate of 46.99 cents. The average home value has increased from last year by 10.2%, from $304,000 to the current $335,000. As a result of the increased average home value, a homeowner with an average home value will pay an additional $104 in municipal property taxes based on this proposed tax rate. We've done this dollar graphic to show the tax rate as well, like we showed our general fund budget. For purposes of every dollar that a citizen pays in taxes, the biggest chunk of that, 59 cents, goes to supporting the school district, 24.3 cents towards the municipal budget, and 16.7 cents towards the county budget. Also, to show a difference between last year's tax rate and last year's average home value as compared to this year's tax rate and this year's average home value, a homeowner on their total tax bill actually pays 1% less because the Schertz Cibolo Universal City ISD is proposing a lower rate. You can see that by taxing entity, both the county and the city of Cibolo increase slightly based on the proposed tax rates and the average home values. What does this tax rate mean to the city? So the proposed rate is applied to net taxable property values as of January 1st, 2023. Those taxes are levied in October to support our fiscal year 24 budget. It generates almost $15 million in property tax revenue when applied to our net taxable values of approximately $3.2 billion. The proposed 24 budget will raise more total property taxes than last year's budget by $1.4 million, or 10.32%, and of that amount, $685,000 approximately is tax revenue to be raised from new property on the tax roll. And this is a required statement that's required on the budget of our, the cover of our budget. Of the total increase, I wanted to also break it down between general fund and debt service, with $721,000 of that $1.4 million being recognized in the general fund and $680,000 in the debt service fund. The increased revenues in the general fund are supporting the new school resource officers, increased cost of health insurance for city staff, and maintaining market competitiveness in salaries. Increased tax revenues in the debt service fund will defease approximately $530,000 in fiscal year 24. This chart does show the change in taxable value from the prior year for the last 4 years. You can see that there is a large change in 2021, new improvement value and change in existing properties. The demand for homes in 21, as you all are well aware, created a market that was advantageous for home sellers, and it raised the value of properties overall, and we've seen that continue into the current year. When we look at our breakdown by classification, our residential and commercial Property values increased by 10.8 and 15.5 respectively. Where we saw the large increase was in industrial values. While it's not a large percentage of our total portfolio, you could say, of values in the city, it did increase by 76.8%, bringing the total property value increase to 16.6%. Our tax exemptions also increased by a slightly greater amount at 20.4%, which brought our overall taxable assessed value increase to just under 16%. And this is shown graphically as well. I'd like to point out that although residential values continue to grow very steadily over these years, because of the growth in our commercial and industrial property, you can see that the residential values make up a smaller percentage of each of those bars, going from 87% in 2018 to 82.6% in 2023. So tonight we're here holding a public hearing. This was published in the newspaper on August 30th and September 3rd. It was only required to be published once, but we did want to get it into a Sunday paper as well. Because our proposed tax rate exceeds the no new revenue rate is the reason that we are holding a public hearing tonight. And this notice was a quarter-page notice and was not allowed to be in the legal or classified section. So we've met all of those requirements in posting. To adopt a tax rate that exceeds the no new revenue rate, which council will consider at an ordinance later in the agenda, the vote must be separate from a vote adopting the budget. It must be a record vote. It must be approved by 60% of the governing body, and specific language is required in both the ordinance and in the motion when the motion is made. In addition, because the M&O rate exceeds the no new revenue M&O rate, there is additional language that is required to be posted in the ordinance and on our website, indicating the impact on a $100,000 home. And with that, we're open to any questions on the tax rate, and we can open the public hearing for citizen comment.
Thank you, Ms. Miranda. The time is now 7:05. I'm going to open up the public hearing for agenda item 6B concerning the tax rate. If anyone in the audience would like to comment on the tax rate, please come on up to the microphone. Hearing none, I will close the public hearing for 6B at 7:06 p.m. Thank you, Ms. Miranda. Moving on to item number 7, citizens to be heard. This is the only time during the city council meeting that a citizen can address the city council. It is the opportunity for visitors and guests alike to address the city council on any issue, to include agenda items. All visitors wishing to speak must fill out the sign-in roster prior to the start of the meeting. The city council may not debate any non-agenda issue, nor may any action be taken on any non-agenda issue at this time. However, the City Council may present any factual response to items brought up by citizens. Attorney General Opinion JC 0169, limit of 3 minutes each. All remarks shall be addressed to the council as a body. Remarks may also be addressed to any individual council member so long as the remarks are about matters of local public concern and not disruptive to the meeting or threatening to the member or any attendee. Any person violating this policy may be requested to leave the meeting, but no person may be requested to leave or forced to leave the meeting because of the viewpoint expressed. This meeting is live streamed. If anyone would like to make comments on any matter regarding the city of Cibolo or on an agenda item and have this item read at this meeting, please email psimics@cibolotx.gov and vchapman@cibolotx.gov or telephone 210-566-6111 before 5 p.m., the date of the meeting. All right, first up, we have Elliot. Can't see this last name, so if your name is Elliot, come on up. Welcome, Elliot.
Hi. A quick background. I've been a resident of Cibolo roughly a little over 7 years now, and I've been dealing with a problem with utilities for a little over 2.5 years. the day it became personal. My trash is not being picked up, and 3 years ago, I had a family member move out who was having a rough time. They were able to get up on their feet and get their own place, so my trash production reduced quite a bit. So now, really what I have is like a Walmart bag or one from HEB. That's about the size of it. So I checked with the utilities and asked them, could I not use the full-size container and just put the one bag on the curb? And they said, yes, if it's out there, it has to be picked up. Last year, the contractor was picking up trash and then recycle. This year has changed to recycle first and now trash. Okay, I've had about 8 incidents this past summer where they're picking up twice a week, but my trash was not picked up. And I called the utilities to advise them, and they normally tell me, leave it there, they'll pick it up the next go around, 3-4 days, whatever that might be. This morning, I heard the trash truck come by roughly 7:45, and I thought I heard a noise when I got up, and I did have some pictures. Okay, great, okay. And the first one shows how I normally have my trash on my curb, okay? The 2 items to the right are my next door neighbors. The small recycle bin and a small bag of trash is mine. Page 2, this past week, is where this one bag of trash sat there all week, okay? Even though I went to the office and said, hey, they're not picking up the trash. Page 3 this morning, I noticed my recycle bin was blocking my driveway, and last Tuesday, when I went in and spoke with the supervisor at utility and explained to them that, hey, you know what I mean, they're blocking my driveway with the trash cans, and also I'm concerned that I'm having to move it all the time. She said, well, they're not supposed to pick up the driveway. I said, block the driveway, and they're not picking up the trash. When they make a mess, they don't pick it up. Well, today at 7:45, I called the police department because I wasn't sure whether they had tried to damage this vehicle by throwing this trash bin across from where it normally sits, or whether they actually were just trying to block the driveway as shown in the picture. Police officer responded at 9 o'clock, and the page 5 I show where the trash was left in the street. I took a picture on page 6 of what was in the bin, just enough for, when I got home at 1 o'clock, I left my home right after speaking to the officer. When I got home at 1 o'clock, my trash bin was sitting in my driveway next to my garage door.
Okay, Elliot, thank you so much for bringing this to our attention. And, you know, just to clarify, the city of Cibolo, we don't pick up the trash. We contract out that service to Republic. Have you tried calling Republic to tell them?
I have not. Been
Okay,
trying to work
if you
with
could get the
city.
phone number from Mr. Reed or our city secretary, they'll give you the phone number for Republic.
Yeah, the reason for this is because I'm being harassed now.
Okay, and then,
If you don't mind, what is your street or your neighborhood?
Woodstone Loop,
Woodstone Loop.
yes.
and if you can get that information from our city manager for Republic, and then make sure to call them and tell them exactly what's going on. I had the same happen to me one time. They forgot to pick up my trash. I called them, I think about 5 o'clock on a Wednesday, because Wednesday is my trash day, and they sent somebody out within 2 hours and picked it up. So they're really good.
And put it in front of my house at 3 o'clock this afternoon.
Okay, but yeah, definitely call Republic and tell them what's going on. Thank you, sir. All right, next up is Maggie. Welcome, Maggie. How are you?
I'm great. Good evening, council. Well, you know what? I don't think this is on. Where is it? Check.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah,
if I eat it,
We
I
hear
don't
you.
want to be that close. I just wanted to first thank council for coming out to Kitty Academy. That was an awesome ribbon cutting. First time we had to do it 3 times, but sorry about that. I think she was just so excited to cut that ribbon. She just, whacked at it. But it just meant a lot to her, and I spoke to her afterwards. And the fact that the majority of council and our mayor was out there just really, really touched her. City Manager Wayne Reed was out there too, a lot of supporting staff, and just wanted to thank you all for doing this, for coming out, not only just for Cibolo businesses, but you all have been showing up to Shirts businesses opening and Selma businesses opening and any other supporting Chamber of Commerce members. And like I said, even though they may not be currently in your city, they could be soon. And just the support of the cities doing this really means a lot to supporting commerce. Tomorrow is going to be the opening of Next Level Urgent Care here in Cibolo. We're not doing the grand opening for the ribbon cutting portion until October 10th. They wanted to wait. But the facility will be open in Cibolo starting tomorrow. They're very excited. They have a really good level of care, different variations of care. They have an open house all day tomorrow. So if you're able to just stop by, walk around the new facility, do that. But officially, the ribbon cutting will be October 10th at 10 a.m. Also, next Tuesday is our chamber luncheon, State of Education. It will feature Superintendent Dr. Clark Ely giving a presentation about our school district, safety measures that they have put in place since the passing of some of the new bills, as well as Dr. Veronica Garcia with Alamo College's Northeast Lakeview College in particular, giving up the status of what is going on with the college and the enrollments right now. Also, as you all know, REMAX, the Hot Air Balloon Festival, is coming up September 29th and 30th. We're 1 month early. Cibolo had a fantastic booth, and I know you all are working on another one this year along with the cities of Selma and Schertz to support this event. We have over 141 vendors, arts and crafts, 21 food trucks, 4 live concerts, and of course the hot air balloons. We will be having launches on Saturday morning, tethered balloon rides on both Friday night and Saturday night. And if you need more information about it, go to skylightballoonfest.com. And Mayor, I did send you an invitation to, okay. And that is all I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maggie. All right, next up is Philip Smith. Come on down, Philip. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine today. Thank you. Philip Smith, 1557 Bolton Road. I'd like to first read from an email that I got from Mr. Victor Gonzalez. He's on the mechanical team, Air Permits Division, Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. It was yesterday, 9/11. I'm going to quote from it, and I'll have it available if the council wants to see it afterwards. Even though it says, he discussed with his team lead, it seems we cannot void this permit at this time, even though it did not meet the 440-yard distance requirement at the time of issuance. It was an oversight on our part. And that's very critical in the sense that the Texans made a mistake. They screwed up. The city council here tonight has to consider disapproving this CUP. And there's 4 major things in the requirements for CUP that for the one of them was contain, and this is a quote from 4.7.4.3, contain all industrial processes in the interior buildings. The city did not address that in their findings or in their conclusions. And obviously Superior Ready Mix is, in their site plan, did not say they're going to build a building to put all this operation inside of a building. The second one, any outdoor storage or other uses shall be completely screened and buffered. The city says they can do something in 6 months for landscaping. And the Superior says no vision, and I quote from their site, from their intent, letter of intent, no visual blocking screen is required at this time. The CPUP says it has to be there. The third one, and this is it says shall be limited to an incidental percentage of the total operation. Concrete is their total operation other than the 3 offices they have in Mr. Mott's building for their corporate offices and their secretary and their maintenance issues in the back of the building. The fourth item was that there shouldn't be any glare. Any night you want to come out to my house, which I'm abutting that property, you can read a newspaper in my yard, even without my glasses even. And so the glare, those big lights are made to be in the country someplace or away from residential residences, things. The other thing I'd like to just say is that I noticed on later tonight under item G, you're going to discuss the pros and cons of removing the MERV from this overlay district and possibly putting a planned unit development. And it's to foster quality development that will protect the image of Cibolo along I-10 and land use compatibility, and protect the health and safety of the citizens of Cibolo. Because this dust that has caused one of our neighbors to have bladder cancer diagnosed, that all blows towards Cibolo on this area. And so just because there's only 11 houses or 11 people associated, it's going to affect everybody in Cibolo. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Philip. Next up is Gene Smith. Okay. Rodney Loeffler. Welcome, Rodney.
I live at 1740 Bolton also, and I'd like to express my opposition to the Superior Concrete plant also. The staff findings make it clear that this business does not meet the criteria laid out for the zoning of this location. And I would please ask everybody to vote to deny their continued permit.
Thank you, Rodney. We have a special guest in the house tonight. Former Mayor of Cibolo, the Honorable Stosh Boyle. Come on down. Welcome, Stosh.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Thank you, Council. I got a few items here, and it's kind of a hodgepodge. It's all over the board here. Tri-County, I wanted to list a few events that are coming up. We have the luncheon on November 10th, held at the Fleedman Garden Ridge Community Center. That's at 11:30. We have the Glow Golf Tournament, which is, it's in October, 19th. And that's a Friday night. It's, your guess is as good as mine. 9 holes played in the afternoon, and the same 9 holes at sunset. Winners will be determined by the day round.
I have a hard enough time finding my balls in the daytime.
It ought to be interesting. Yeah. So that's going to be at the Olympia Hills Golf Course. Next we have Raptitude, JJ's Grit and Grace Boutique, and the Max Altitude. There's a mixer on September 28th at 5:30 to 9 o'clock. A couple things. When we built this building for the Noble Group back in 2013, it's really pleasing to see that it's used this way. The community center, that was kind of what Donnie Jackson wanted to center around, was community, and ever since he's been a staple in our downtown area. This weekend he's supporting a Hispanic Heritage Day here, and I encourage you all to come out. I'll be here. They say it starts at 8 o'clock, but it runs pretty much all day. The Cibolo Powwow, the Veterans Powwow, so first I want to thank Councilwoman Cunningham for the great suggestion with the History Committee. Shane has been a rock star. We have several other committee members that have joined, and it looks like it's going to be bigger and stronger than ever. We have a little bit extra time to stretch our legs. We're looking at April 13th. I know that I spoke with Peggy, and I know that Relentless Soccer had the date, but I spoke with Reese Kelly, and that's actually a rain-out date, and he said, yeah, mate, you can have it. I'll figure something else out. So we're going to work on that, getting that date nailed down. One of the big reasons I come here, supposed to write down on this piece of paper, I was going to come speak on behalf of Roadrunner Towing. So Roadrunner Towing, I've had the pleasure of knowing Jeff Nenstead for at least 10 years, and I knew him before I was the mayor, I knew him during, and I've had lengthy conversations after, and I know that this is one of the agenda items to talk about tonight, and it happens to be in the same cul-de-sac subdivision as the Superior's plant. But I'm asking council, the cup, the Muri or snap or whatever you want to call it, you got to look at the intent of these laws that were passed, and I would think that Jeff, and his team have proven, he runs into situations where he needs bigger equipment. He goes and buys it. He doesn't say a word. He does countless favors for the municipalities, for the county, for everyone around here. I'm going to tell you, after the Uvalde shootings, he was the first one to call me and say, what can I do? Let's do something, Stosh. Let's work together. He's worked with the cities and the communities effortlessly, tirelessly, day or night. He's not good at the paperwork part of it and the initiating all of it. He's a doer. And if you don't believe me, listen on the scanner whenever there's a wreck. He's going to be out there handling it himself. And if we don't put that kind of presence and welcome into the city of Cibolo and put that kind of presence on IH-10, then we're foolish. And we need to look at the intent of the law that we wrote and figure out a way to get this man down there where he can respond to these emergencies. And not only that, while I'm on my pedestal, the last thing is, we have these signs around town. Most of them got picked up, but, the drain the swamp, if anybody knows about having enemies in this town, it's me. And I'm going to tell you, there's a few in this room that still talk behind my back. But you know what? Get over it. Just because the law says you can have the sign up, take it down. We are so past this, and we need to, the people that have these signs up need to take them down and let's move on. We can disagree and be civil, and if you can't do that, we'll at least take the sign down and be mature about it. That's all I got. Thanks. Thanks for letting me have extra time.
Thank you, Stash. Next up, Stephen, is it Traeger?
Yes.
Okay, come on up, Stephen.
You're not getting my Gatorades.
Good evening, council members. Thank you very much for your time. I'm here regarding agenda item 12C. I'm an attorney. I represent Mr. Mark Mott. I'm going to be discussing Superior Ready Mix's application for a conditional use permit. The city staff and Planning and Zoning Commission have made a determination that Superior's operations are not consistent with the comprehensive master plan. The background a little bit, Superior applied for and was granted a certificate of occupancy for office use on this site in April, but immediately began concrete batching operations in addition to violation of zoning ordinance and their certificate of occupancy. This is in a mixed-use regional employment center district. Under the Unified Development Code, that allows for a clean, light industrial use. But city staff and P&Z does not consider concrete batching to be a clean industrial use. Now, it's important to address the criteria for a conditional use permit. Number one, suitability of the use in relation to the surrounding areas. I do not believe that it is suitable. Property owners and businesses in the surrounding area have unanimously objected to the proposed use, especially in the residential area, and complained of negative impact during the brief time that the use has been allowed. Number two, the second criteria, the ability to restrict all industrial processes to the interior buildings, as was spoken about before. This is not possible in the concrete mixing field. It can't be restricted to interior. The majority of it is outside. The third criteria, the use does not propose any risk to residential uses within the district. Residents in the district have provided evidence of risk and unanimously objected, as I mentioned. The fourth criteria, outdoor uses shall be limited to an incidental percentage of total operations. Here it is the primary outdoor, the outdoor use is the primary part of the operation. The fifth criteria relates to environmental impact of other prohibited uses. Other uses expressly prohibited by the ordinance are less detrimental to the environment than the proposed use. An example of that is a sexually oriented business. That presently is prohibited, but if an application came in for a CUP under that, that would be less detrimental to the environment than this. The sixth is that it shall demonstrate abatement measures which are implemented. Here we have landscaping presented as a proposed abatement measure, but the landscaping buffer only addresses the view of this, not the dust and not the sound. Both of those have not been significantly or meaningfully addressed. Ordinance 1371 restricts hours of operation from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Superior is requesting to operate. It's my understanding that I can.
I think you got 3 more minutes. It looks like. Anyway, there was someone that says concede 3 minutes to Stephen Traeger. You're good. Go for it.
Thank you. Ordinance 1371 restricts hours of operation from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Superior is requesting to operate from 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. And again, this is a concrete truck that, when being cleaned, especially, they're banging the side of it to get the concrete out there. All these lights. This starts near a residential area at 5 in the morning. City staff has found that Superior has submitted a proposed site plan that will bring the plan into compliance. I would say that this proposed site plan is questionable. Superior initially, as I mentioned, applied for and was issued a permit for office use, but they immediately began unpermitted concrete operations. Superior admits from the last meeting, they admitted that they did not perform their due diligence regarding land use regulations before constructing this facility. Now, I want to address the credibility of their proposals because it's important to note that they told a mistruth as to what their use was going to be. They admitted that there was no due diligence done or a lack of due diligence done. Additionally, as of August 25th, so just last month in Guadalupe County, they've had a state tax lien filed against them in the amount of $155,350.74. Furthermore, last month as well, on August 23rd, just 2 days before that, a different concrete company has sued them in Hays County for breach of contract. Now, that suit is not finalized. I can't predict the outcome of that suit. I don't know. But it is important for y'all as council members to address the credibility of Superior Concrete. And one of these factors on its own may not be significant, but combined, I would argue, is a very meaningful amount of things to consider. Credibility as to their statements of what they're going to do and not do. They haven't obligated themselves to anything. It's been proposals such as the landscaping. Addressing some prior, well, I'll conclude, and then if I have some time remaining, I'll go ahead and address some prior arguments. Superior's operations, as discussed, are a nuisance to the neighbors. They're damaging the road use in the subdivision that was developed by my client, Mr. Mott. Voting to allow Superior to continue operations is a vote against, number one, the zoning ordinances, 2, the city staff's recommendation, 3, planning and zoning's unanimous recommendation of the denial, 4, the objection of all of their immediate neighbors, and 5, it sets a precedent that will undermine local laws and government in favor of well-financed businesses who don't live in Cibolo over their voters, over the Cibolo voters and residents. And that's why we kindly ask that you deny the conditional use permit. Thank you very much for all of your time.
Thank you, Stephen. Next up, Jeff. Come on down. Welcome.
Jeff Deanstead with Roadrunner Towing. I'm here to speak on agenda item 13G, I believe. After the exponential growth out here in Schertz and Cibolo, I've been out here since 2001. I did my first law enforcement tow for the city of Cibolo in early 2002. So I've been towing for y'all for over 2 decades. We've met any challenge, avocados, chickens, Gatorade, whatever it is. So this has become really serious. The city of Schertz, without seeing the gravity in their decision in a city ordinance earlier this year, is probably going to put me out of business. So where do I go? I go to where I live. I live in Cibolo. I'm a resident. I love this town. I have a passion for what I do. I've answered the call every time. Since I started with the city of Cibolo, as a professional courtesy, we have towed every city vehicle free of charge for over 20 years. I don't want to take from the city. I want to give. And I know you're going to discuss this earlier. I'm going to be real reserved with my time. Just so y'all know what y'all have with Roadrunner Towing. We were honored at the Texas Tow Expo, the American Towman Tow Expo in Fort Worth in July. We were nominated and awarded the Masters of Chaos Award. The Masters of Chaos Award has only been given to 8 towing companies in the United States. We're number 4. And the incident that got me in there was actually an incident that occurred in the city of Cibolo. I want to be here forever. I think I've shown everybody what we can do, and I just hope that y'all back us up on this, because I'd love to bring my business to where I live. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeff. I really appreciate you coming up here to talk with us tonight, and just wanted to let you know that we value you and we value the service that you provide this community. You're a living legend, a local folk hero, and so we would love to have you in Cibolo. Thank you, Jeff. Cassie Kearns.
Good evening, staff. Cassie Kearns, 555 Lower Valley Lane. You will be talking with Miss Kelsey here on agenda item 13A, my property on File Road, about the sidewalk variance. She's going to give you 4 options. The city needs clarification from our last discussion. So I'm asking you, after you hear the discussion, that you still vote for item 1 out of the 4 that you got to pick from, which is the ordinance approving variance with the condition and agreement would be signed requiring construction of a sidewalk at a later date. That's the one I'm asking for from council. You will also hear stuff from possibly the city lawyer and advising some stuff about me the city not being able to enforce at a later date for me to pay for sidewalks, or if I sell the property that they can't enforce it. But I will say, if I ever sold the property, the person buying the property would have to do the whole process that I'm doing all over again. So I think that to me is null and void, but I'm asking for council to vote for number 1. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Cassie. All right, Peggy, I think you have a few emails to read, right?
Okay, the first one is from Catherine. It's Pirkle, Pirkle. She's writing, in order to voice my strong opposition for any amount of money being allocated toward an ice skating rink. I don't know who proposed this idea or why it's being entertained. It absolutely should not be up for a vote, discussion, or consideration. The city of Cibolo has not properly resourced and housed animal control services. This facility is an embarrassment and should have been upgraded long ago. It was recently brought to my attention that the city does not have its own ambulance. Wouldn't it be more responsible to correct this deficiency? Why are we reliant on shirts for emergency services? Since we as a city have effectively turned down some of our streets into NASCAR advertisements, which look awful and are so distasteful, that the message we are projecting is the only thing Cibolo has to offer are cheap row houses that need foundation work in less than 5 years. For the irresponsible and unethical developers in the area, could you not at least petition them to throw some money at these significant needs? Again, I oppose funding an ice skating rink and strongly encourage the city prioritize funding critical service needs such as animal control and Cibolo ambulance. The next one is from Donald Simpson, and he has several inputs on items for a vote at tonight's city council meeting. Approval, disapproval of an ordinance of the city of Cibolo for rezoning of 1.43.095 acres, Town Creek Road and Weidner Road from SF4 or from SF2 to SF4. He opposes and he states, Norma, please vote against this request. Keep SF2. The next one is approval, disapproval of an ordinance of the city of Cibolo for a conditional use permit, a cup for 5.98 acres of real property located at 146 Mott's Parkway to allow for a concrete asphalt batching plant. We oppose that. Again, they request that Norma please vote against this request. We don't need a concrete asphalt batching plant at this location. And the last one, approval, disapproval of an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinance of the City of Cibolo, Texas, Chapter 14, Building and Building Regulations, Section 14.2, building codes adopted by the city to amend existing building codes, provisions relating to building foundations. We need stricter rules on foundations, as so many people have had to have their home foundations repaired. The next one is from Wilma Carter. And she states, please use the $50,000 to help the animals at the animal shelter and not at a skate rink. Okay. Next one is from Wilma Carter. says, hello, please don't spend $50,000 on a skate rink. Please spend $50,000 for our well-needed animal shelter for those poor dogs and cats, please. The next one is from Amber Lee. Recently, I've had heard about a decision to use $50,000 to create a temporary ice rink in Cibolo. I definitely see the value in community events such as this, but $50,000 for an event seems so wasteful when our animal shelter has been in such bad shape for so long. Cibolo has grown so fast, but the animal shelter has stayed the same for years. They don't have the capability to handle the growth of our community. When comparing Shirt's animal shelter to ours, I feel that it's downright embarrassing. Investing in something that's long-lasting would be a wiser choice at this time. I hope you consider the true needs of our community. Serena Rickman, as a Cibolo resident, I was shocked to learn that the city of Cibolo is considering granting $50,000 to go toward an ice skating rink rather than going toward our outdated animal shelter. I have children and admit the rink would be fun. However, how would it be able to enjoy ourselves knowing that money could be put to better use? The Cibolo Animal Facility was built in 2000 when the city had a population of about 2,000 people. We have almost grown to 38,000 and the facility cannot keep up with the population growth. Clearly, this is not acceptable. I read, Cibolo has the smallest facility and it is in a phase of coming up with a plan to invest in and expand the shelter and animal operations. We have passed the exploratory phase. We cannot continue to say we plan to invest in and expand. This is the time for action. I am asking that we do the right thing and put those funds toward the Cibolo Animal Shelter. Thank you for your time. The next one is from Ty Frosty. I am aware that there is a plan in place to build an ice skate rink here in the city of Cibolo. My family and I strongly oppose the idea. We feel that $50,000 would be more useful to a different cause, such as an animal shelter or something of that nature. The land can be put to much better use to benefit our community. As a resident of Cibolo and parent to 3 kids, we do not wish to have an ice skating rink nearby. This would be a huge waste of taxpayers' dollars. We are strong supporters of you and would appreciate, Mayor, if you would consider our point of view. Thank you. Jimmy Cole. I just caught wind about an ice skating rink. What does the city of Cibolo need one of these for? This is not a need, more so a want. The city has greater needs. A great example is the animal shelter. The Cibolo Animal Shelter is always at capacity. This is a need. Do something about it. Do the right thing. With an increase in population, which is what I believe you desire, come with an increase in animals. Sometimes they get loose, sometimes they get dumped. Regardless, they all need a safe place to go in their time of need. The wants should not go above the needs. Get this right. The last one is from Melissa Tovar. Your vote tonight on the ordinance for a cup for Superior Concrete Plant has significant implications. Your vote will show whether you uphold the rules and ordinances currently in existence or whether you are willing to overlook and bend those rules at any time for a business. Your vote will set a presence moving forward. Approving this cup shows other businesses that they can bend and break the rules long-term with zero consequences. A few points taken directly from city staff. 10 property owners are within the affected boundaries. Every single one has formally opposed this cup. 100% participation and opposition. How often do you see that happen? The comprehensive plan identifies the property as commercial. Permanent plant used is not consistent with the comprehensive plan. A certificate of occupancy was granted April 2023 for office use only, which means the batch plant operation have gone on long before that date and continue after was never approved. This means the owner either knowingly operated illegally or wasn't responsible or competent enough to actually find out the proper requirements. The UDC allows clean light manufacturing within the Muir District. The city does not consider the concrete plant to be a clean light manufacturing. The purpose of this district is to promote economic development and retail activity. Based on what I've seen, do you believe that concrete plant does that? Those points all gathered directly from the staff findings that are part of the attachments for tonight's meeting. You have been provided plenty of evidence that this company has operated in an unscrupulous manner outside the city's ordinances. I encourage you to do exactly as Planning and Zoning did and deny this cup. Show citizens that their health, safety, and well-being is more important than a business. Uphold the ordinances already established for the city of Cibolo and vote to deny the cup to Superior.
Thank you, Peggy.
That's all I have. Thank
All
you.
right. So yeah, just to clarify on a few of those, just so the community knows, there was never an either-or scenario presented nor discussed by council where we were given the option to do a winter event for the children versus an animal shelter. That there was never an either-or decision presented to us. So I'm not sure where that rumor might have started within the community, but we do have an animal shelter upgrade that we are contemplating that would allow the city of Cibolo to build a new animal shelter on city-owned property over behind the Miracle Field. And so that is something that we are contemplating putting on the ballot in November of 2024, whereby all Cibolo citizens will have the ability to come to the polls and vote on a new animal shelter. Yes, and also, yeah, thank you, Katie. And then we also do have 500,000, so 10 times that amount set aside to make upgrades to the existing animal shelter. Yeah, starting October 1st. Thank you, Katie. Okay, so that's covered. So it wasn't an either-or situation. All right, next up, we have agenda item number 8, consent agenda. Consent items. All items listed below will be considered to be routine and non-controversial by the council and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda. Item A, approval of the minutes of the regular city council meeting held on August 22nd, 2023. B, approval of the July 2023 check register pending final acceptance of the city's financial audit for the 2022-2023 fiscal year. C, approval of the July 23 revenue and expense report pending final acceptance of the city's financial audit for the 2022-2023 fiscal year.
Motion to approve consent agenda items A through C.
Okay, I got a motion made by Mayor Pro Tem and Councilman Joel Hicks and a second by Councilwoman Katie Cunningham. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, consent agenda is approved, Peggy, 7-0. Next up, number 9, staff update, administration. Mr. Reed. Thank you, Mr.
On
Reed.
that, just want to make sure that they're not open prior to the council getting them on that process. Okay. All right, thank you.
Any police department update or no? We're good. Everything covered? Nothing going on? Okay. All right, thank you. All right, moving on to item 10A, approval, disapproval of an ordinance of the City of Cibolo regarding amending ordinance 1347 fee schedule. Ms. Miranda.
This is the first item in a list of items that I will cover tonight. The fee schedule ordinance, you did get an updated copy of that. We have reviewed that fee ordinance at length in the budget workshops as well as prior council meetings. Council recommendations have been incorporated in the fee schedule. I do want to mention that we noticed an omission from that fee schedule, and we would like to ask that this item be continued to the next meeting. The omission being the quick response vehicle in the fire schedule and the facility room rentals that were recently approved by council did make it into this fee schedule. So we'd like to bring that back to council on September 26th.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to table 10A till the next meeting.
Oh, understood. Okay, got a motion by Councilman Hicks, seconded by Councilwoman Cunningham. We'll start with a roll call with Councilman Benson.
Aye.
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 Ayes have it, 7-0. Thank you, Ms. Miranda.
Thank you.
Moving on to 10B, approval, disapproval of an ordinance of the City of Cibolo adopting the budget for fiscal year 2023-2024, beginning October 1st, 2023, and ending September 30th, 2024. Ms. Miranda.
Adopting this budget will set the appropriations for our next fiscal year 24, October 1st through September 30th. Again, we have visited with council and sought their feedback at various times during this process, culminating in the public hearing tonight. We ask for council's approval of fiscal year 24 budget tonight, with or without any recommended changes that you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Miranda. Does anybody would like to have any questions or you need to make any amendments to this budget, or are we ready to approve it as is? Do I hear a motion to approve the budget?
Was the ice rink removed?
I'm sorry?
Was the ice rink removed?
Yes, it was.
Okay. I thought I had seen it. Then I'll make a motion to approve the budget.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion by Councilwoman Cunningham and a second by Councilwoman Stevens. We'll do a roll call starting with Councilman Hicks.
Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it, 5-2.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Miranda. All right, moving on to 11A, approval, disapproval of a resolution of the City of Cibolo to ratify the property tax increase reflected in the fiscal year 2023-24 budget. Ms. Miranda.
Yes, sir. This resolution is mandated by Local Government Code Section 102.007, which states that adoption of a budget that will raise more revenue than the prior year does require a separate vote of the governing body to ratify the property tax increase reflected in the budget. And so there's a vote to adopt the budget, a vote to ratify the tax increase, and then we'll also ask for you to consider the tax rate ordinance following this. So because this budget does require raising more revenue, is the reason that we're asking you to consider this resolution.
Do I hear a motion for 11A?
I make a motion to approve 11A.
Second.
Got a motion made by Councilwoman Cunningham and a second by Councilwoman Sanchez Stevens. Do a roll call starting with Councilman Benson.
Aye.
Nay.
Ayes have it, 5-2.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to 11 B, approval, disapproval of a resolution of the City of Cibolo providing for defeasance and calling for redemption of certain outstanding city obligations and other matter in connection herewith. Ms. Miranda.
As you know, as we mentioned earlier, the tax rate will be maintaining the INS tax rate of 17.93 cents, and the purpose of that is to defease some debt again in 24 as we did in 23. We have some visitors with us tonight, our bond counsel, Ms. Lauren Ferraro, and also our financial advisor, Victor Quiroga, and he does have a short program update on where we are on the defeasance.
Welcome, Victor.
Honorable Mayor, members of staff, Mr. Reed, thank you for having me here this evening. For the record, my name is Victor Quiroga with Specialized Public Finance, and we have the honor of representing the city as your financial advisor. I haven't been here in a little bit, so I know there's a couple new faces. But basically, this is a program that we introduced to Mr. Reed over a year ago to consider, whereby we keep their interest and sinking fund tax rate stable at 17.93 cents, as indicated earlier, and we're going to collect extra tax revenues, and what we're going to do is we're going to pay off some of those existing bonds that you have outstanding with those extra tax revenues. So this year and this week, we'll be closing this current fiscal year's defeasance and paying down about $575,000 in principal for interest cost savings of $256,000. If you can maintain the program into next year, we're anticipating paying off additional $530,000 in principal, or about $158,000 in interest. I'm sorry. Or possibly more, yes, sir. Yeah, we make sure we add those keywords in there to give us some options and everything. But I just want to make note of that program, what it is. We're here to answer any questions for you. But also, I just want to remind you that the city has not only been mindful with taxpayer dollars with this defeasance program, but in the past, in 2019, 2021, conducted some refinancings where you saved your taxpayers interest cost savings about $1.6 million. So this is all just on top of the prudent actions that the city has taken in the past with respect to your outstanding debt. But we're happy to answer any questions you may have on this resolution.
So it's resolutions to continue on for next year?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And if not, anybody else have any questions, I'll make a motion to approve of a resolution of the City of Cibolo providing for defeasance and calling for redemption of certain outstanding city obligations and other matters of connection therewithin.
We got a second?
Second.
Okay, got a motion by Councilman Hicks, a second by Councilwoman Cunningham. We'll go ahead and start a roll call with this one. Councilman Hicks.
Aye.
Ayes have it, 7-0.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Victor.
Good to see you.
All right, moving on to 11C, approval, disapproval of a resolution of the City of Cibolo on the annexation of approximately 245 acres of land into the boundaries of Guadalupe County Municipal Utility District number 6, GCMUD number 6. Mr. Reed.
While Mr. Reed's getting this stuff, I just was wondering why we couldn't have just said, why it doesn't just say, basically, GCMUD number 6 wants to annex Cibolo's ETJ into their district. It makes it a lot more clearer for the citizens to understand that.
Mr. Reed, you'll explain it, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So what you have before you, first I'll just say that Richard Mott, who is with Lennar Homes and is the applicant for this request, is in the audience, and I think he'd like to have a short period of time just to say a few words after my presentation, which will be short, as well as any questions that you have of me. So the City of Cibolo does not have experience with MUDs, municipal utility districts. And so this request before you tonight, recognizing it's the first time for you to have such a request, I made clear in the cover sheet, you have options tonight. You can move very quickly to approve the consent to the inclusion of this land into an existing MUD that's in Guadalupe County. You can move to deny the consent. Doesn't shut the door on the MUD. It just directs the developer to the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, TCEQ, and it'll go through the process with TCEQ where if it meets all the standards and criteria, TCEQ will approve this MUD. In fact, that's the way the existing MUD number 6 was formed, was the legislative process. Your third option is you're learning about a MUD. It's your first time to be asked to consent to the formation of a MUD within our ETJ. And so you can ask questions and ask for additional information. You can ask, are there any concessions by the applicant, and direct the applicant and myself to come back to you on September 26th with specific direction for us to come back with information on. So what's happening here is that they're not annexing our ETJ. The applicant is requesting that this existing Guadalupe County Municipal Utility District, which is GC MUD number 6, that exists in the Santa Clara ETJ, that it be allowed to have Cibolo Farms and Grace Valley subdivisions added into the boundaries of that MUD. They're discontiguous. They're not touching one another. State law allows this disconnected formation of MUDs. The existing MUD contains roughly 174 acres in the Santa Clara ETJ. It's known as the Ann Austin subdivision. This subdivision, over 174 or so acres, will contain up to 800 single-family homes and an amenity center upon build-out. This development has not started. If you were to go look at the land, it would look like a field. The Texas Commission on Environmental Quality approved the MUD for the Ann Austin subdivision in May of this year. So it's a very recently created MUD, and therefore they have not issued debt, according to Mr. Mott's statements to me, and therefore it has not formed its own service plan on how it will provide those services within the tax rate proposed for this MUD. And this MUD, based upon the information provided to me, will have a total tax rate of up to 49 cents per $100 in assessed value, and I've explained how that's broken down between debt, 44 cents, as well as for maintenance and operations, and that's up to 5 cents. So the request here is to annex, as I said, what is commonly known as Cibolo Farms and the Grace Valley subdivisions into this existing MUD. So those two together add up to 245 acres. The ownership behind this is that S.A. Tomahawk Rock LP and Lennar Homes each own a portion of Tract 1 in the Grace Valley subdivision. Lennar is the owner of Tract 2 and Tract 3 in the Grace Valley subdivision. And then going over to Cibolo Farms, Lennar is the owner of that subdivision. The addition of the Grace Valley subdivision, the Cibolo Farms subdivision, into this existing MUD will allow the MUD to maintain all private streets that will be contained in the subdivisions, as well as any other infrastructure that it is allowed to maintain, in addition to being responsible for the public roads and the sidewalks that are not maintained by Guadalupe County for maintenance, along with other utilities and amenities. Therefore, rather than expect an HOA to maintain private roads, which council had concerns about when Richard Mott had to bring back the Grace Valley Unit 1 plat, because the county said the roads do not meet our standards, therefore we will not accept the public right-of-way, and he had to change the plat to reflect private streets. Council expressed at the time they were concerned, how will an HOA in perpetuity always have fees assessed and collected so that these streets are maintained and it doesn't become a headache? A solution that Mr. Mott has found is what is before you tonight, and that is to provide a municipal utility district, a taxing entity that has the authority to collect property taxes and use those taxes for the stated purpose within the MUD. And therefore, the private streets will have a taxing entity that will have a statutory obligation to maintain those streets. And again, along with any other provisions within its service plan. There is no financial impact to the city by approving the annexation of approximately 245 acres into the existing GC MUD number 6. This is in our ETJ. We do not collect taxes. We do not provide services, except we do provide fire protection services through an ILA with Guadalupe County. So fire services would be provided in the subdivision if a call was made.
Those two are in Cibolo's ETJ.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I mean, this is no bueno in my opinion. We've got, basically they want to recreate a MUD, and they would be charging the citizens inside this MUD 0.49 property tax, basically. We just passed a tax rate of 0.4699. So the citizen, the first-time home buyer, usually from a development of this standard, would be coming to this MUD thinking that they're getting a better deal and not having to pay city property taxes. However, they'll actually be paying more to live here than they would if they just lived in the city of Cibolo. So, you know, I think that if we were to consider approving this MUD, I'd like to require the MUD to reconstruct Green Valley Road from the Cibolo city limit sign on out to the back end of these proposed developments, closer to the New Braunfels city limits. And so I would look at that as something to consider for the citizens of this particular MUD to be able to contribute to, to these roads and make it more livable for the citizens that drive on these roads to get to these neighborhoods.
And
No,
Mayor,
yeah, they are county roads.
Mayor, it's funny you should say that because, we had offered them to annex. Now they're coming back with a MUD. You're absolutely 100% right here. We asked, we will provide you the sewer. That's all Green Valley SUD water.
Yep.
But we were going to provide sewer to them if they would annex. But they got greedy.
Mm-hmm.
They want them smaller lots. And now they're going to be taxing these individuals more than what they'd be paying as a city.
Right. It's
ridiculous.
Bad deal.
Yeah.
And again, Mayor, the applicant is here after you're done.
If the three choices you've given us are actually the only three choices, I'll take that face value. It makes literally no sense to me that essentially there's nothing we can do. Your three choices all end up with TCQ to approve whatever comes across TCQ's desk.
If they meet the standards and the criteria, which,
We've long passed
Yes, sir.
the fact that TCQ is a rubber stamp organization in the state of Texas. If Rangers want to come talk to me, I'll give you my address.
Yes, sir.
It's just a rubber stamp for whatever the developers want to do.
yes, sir.
And it has no teeth. So let's just throw the argument out that it's not going to be approved.
And
So
right.
here's the thing, what's the point? I really don't understand why we're even having this discussion, since you're going to run over some new anyway, which they will. So maybe we need to have a long discussion about what I don't know if it's even, Mayor Allen's suggestion even work. I mean, again, they're going to run right over the top of us and do whatever the heck they want to do.
Right. I think we have an administrative duty to vote one way or another. We're just required to. You know what I mean?
Because,
I can't find it now, but I made a note when I was going through the packet, and it says in the state law, it says it requires our signature for them to leave. So then, that's why I asked about the three choices, right?
Right.
Because when I read it said it requires us to actually sign off on it. I don't see the part where it says TCEQ can administratively remove them from our ETJ. I'll take it at face value because I don't know, but I did read that one line that said, in order for this to happen, we have to sign off. So I need more clarification at a minimum of the 26th meeting.
So we can, yeah, we can delay if you like. Yeah.
The option 3, Mr.
Table it.
Yes. Well,
Okay.
move to option 3, which is continue the item to the September 26th to direct staff and applicants to provide additional information to assist city council in making decisions. And this way, maybe we can go into executive session and speak with our lawyer about certain things, because I don't want to make this a long agenda.
Yeah.
I don't
Right.
want to do that tonight.
So yeah, let's put it on the executive session of the next agenda
Yes, sir.
and talk about it then.
Yes.
So you made a motion to table?
Yes.
Okay. Got a motion made and a second. We'll start with Councilman Hicks on this one.
Aye.
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 Ayes have it, 7-0. Motion tabled.
Thank you very much, Mayor and council members.
All right, moving on to 12A, approval, disapproval of an ordinance of the City of Cibolo setting the ad valorem tax rate for tax year 23. Ms. Miranda.
Thank you, Mayor. This ordinance before you sets that tax rate at $46.99 to support the fiscal year 24 budget. Again, there's specific language in the ordinance because the tax rate does exceed the no new revenue tax rate. The vote must be a record vote, and at least 60% of the members of the governing body must vote to approve the tax rate. The motion is included in your agenda packet that should be made to move forward on approving the ordinance.
Okay. You good? All right. Are you done, Ms. Miranda?
Yes.
Okay. Councilwoman Cunningham is going to make a motion.
Well, before she does that, if I'd like to just, I'm sure people are asking why I'm voting no. I think that we could have cut a little bit of fat in our budget. I also think that probably could have lowered our taxes a little bit this year. So I just wanted to express that.
Thank you,
Thank
Councilman
you.
Hicks. Okay. Councilwoman Cunningham?
I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 46.99 cents per $100 valuation, which is effectively a 6.7% increase in the tax rate.
Do we have a second? I'll second. Okay, I got a motion and a second. We'll start with Councilman Hicks.
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, 5-2. Thank you, Councilwoman Cunningham.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Miranda. All right, moving on to 12B, approval, disapproval of an ordinance. Actually, I'm sorry, this one actually got pulled. No need to get up. This one's pulled by the developer, so this one will be heard at a future date. Next up is 12C, approval, disapproval of an ordinance of the City of Cibolo for a conditional use permit CUP for 5.98 acres of real property located at 140. That's what I meant, withdrew, sorry. Okay. I left off at real property located at 146 Mott's Parkway to allow for concrete asphalt batching plant permanent. Ms. Huerta.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yes, this is, the applicant is Superior Ready Mix. Representative Tim Pollard, it's 146 Mott's Parkway. The approval of the conditional use permit may include conditions placed upon the development of the property to ensure compatibility with surrounding development. The applicant requests a condition B, that the hours of operations be between 5 a.m. and 8 p.m. instead of the hour set by ordinance. Just to bring to your attention, staff has included some suggested conditions should council decide to vote in favor of the conditional use permit. And there are 8 conditions listed in your staff report that include site plan, permits and inspections, perimeter fencing, landscape buffer, drainage easement, hours of operation that are different from what the applicant is proposing, speed limit, and that no additional conditional use permits are allowed under the conditional use permit. Staff is here if you have any questions, as well as the applicant is in the audience.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions on this one? Okay. Councilwoman Cunningham.
So with this one, this has been an ongoing thing. I know we've heard from a lot of people over the last several weeks, from residents, from employees of the business, and this is not an easy thing to deal with on council. We don't always get to make fun decisions. Some of them suck. This is a very frustrating agenda item for me. When this first came up in January, February, whenever it was, we found that the applicant was out of compliance. There was no cup. It was not zoned properly. The business that was there shouldn't have been there. And our knee-jerk reaction was, well, they need to do a cup. The cup was turned in 2 or 3 times, I think twice, before we shut the business down. You can't operate. We don't let anyone else operate where they're not supposed to be operating. We shut the business down. 3 of us council members went on a limb for this business and said, we went to Mr. Reed with the mayor and we said, we don't feel comfortable shutting down a business and putting all these people out of work indefinitely while we try to get this cup figured out. Let's work with this business. Let's try to make it work. Let's do what we can. Since then, it's been 7-ish months that this business has been operating with our temporary approval to operate. And I feel like council has been laughed at. We have residents who are bringing up their concerns. They're bringing up pictures. They're saying that there's wells on the property and being told, well, you're just crazy. There's no well. There is. We're being told, well, we only operate in these certain business hours. We want this cup to operate from 7 to 7. We're going to follow those rules, but we want to operate from 5 to 8. We're going to stay within those rules. I have driven out there multiple times. I am not a morning person at all. So me getting up at 4 a.m. is unpleasant, to say the least. I've gotten up at 4 a.m. on multiple occasions and gone out there and filmed people working. The backup lights that we've gotten an email, oh, we don't have backup beeping, we don't have backup lights. That's a lie. I have video of it at 4:30 a.m. I've gone out there at midnight in operation. If you can't even follow the requirements of the cup, the requirements that you were requesting in a cup, when you know that there's people complaining about the time, when you know that there's people complaining about the dust, when you know that there's people complaining about the noise and the water and everything else, you know that those complaints are happening. You know that you're asking for approval. And in the months leading up to that approval, don't make not even one change to try to be in compliance with what you're asking to do. At least show some effort.
That's why I'm here. I apologize. I hope I didn't interrupt. I was told by staff that I could make a presentation now at this point.
You can make a presentation.
Actually, I'm sorry. There'll be no presentation. This is not a public hearing. You are able to answer questions if a council member has a question for you. No more than 3 minutes. You want to start?
No, of course. Do we have the presentation?
Oh, this is the one we got emailed.
Yeah, go ahead and start the timer too.
My name is James McKnight. For the record, I am here representing Superior Ready Mix. And because the presentation is not going to be, and I don't have the ability to move the presentation along. Go ahead and could you move it forward, please? Keep going. Keep moving forward. All right. So what I want to say about this process is you're right, Councilwoman Cunningham. There was a lot that wasn't followed correctly in the way that it should have been followed. I am a land use attorney. That's what I specialize in, and I see the process they were following. I see this all the time from folks that just don't understand this process and how is a better way to make it cooperative. They just didn't understand. They thought they had the correct ability to do this long before. They even have a letter from TCQ. Thank you. That was sent to the mayor in May of 22 at the time that let them know that plant would be operating. So they did believe that they were wrong. They were wrong that they were supposed to be operating at that time. Once they finally realized that was the process they were supposed to do, they submitted another application. It wasn't complete. They submitted another application. They just weren't fully aware of everything they were supposed to do. But if you look at the uses that we are trying to put on this property, they actually do align with the comprehensive master plan and with the MURE zoning in this area, the C4 zoning in this area. The city created a zone that allows this use as a conditional use in the MURE and the C4 zoning that's next to it. These two are compatible zoning, and a batch plant can exist here. MURE is allowed to have a conditional use permit with I1 and I2 uses. It's not just clean, light industrial uses. The CUP process is a way for all of us to come together as a community to say, maybe it doesn't fit normally without the CUP. But with the CUP, you can put all kinds of conditions in. All the things that you were discussing about landscaping barriers, fencing, sprinkler systems, hours of operation, backup beepers. The items that you were referring to, Councilwoman Cunningham, I think some of those were probably because is because they were told they were not supposed to make any improvements in the time that they had this temporary operation going on. So they left everything as it was and tried to just continue operating, going through this process, not realizing that there was a lot more to this. Ms. Make sure to hand it out. I presented an alternative list of conditions, additional items that we would put on there, including receiving the inspections, the third-party inspections that have to come as part of it, the ability for the city to come on the site to inspect at any time with some advance notice, obviously installing the fence as soon as that is available to us. But all of these items, we still want to be able to work with the city and be able to work with the residents that are around us. There are only, in this area, that map that you're looking at, there are 2 residents. There's 2 more that are outside the city limits, but there's only 2 in the residential area. Residential area is not a correct description of this. There's 2 homes in the C4 and MURE area, and we want to be able to talk to them and say, what can we do to help? What I'm here to do was to present this, make this presentation to you. I don't have time to go through everything that I wanted to, but I do want to ask at this time for more time, for us to actually meet with those residents one-on-one. I have not been part of this process the whole time, and I want to be able to give them that chance to meet with the residents one-on-one. I've met with the city staff, I met with the city manager and and with the director of development services to try to work through this, and we just want a little more time. We also provide times that we can have the property open to have council members come in and look at the site, inspect it in person, but this process wasn't followed exactly as it should have been. And had I been involved earlier, or someone like me been involved earlier, we would have advised them, this is a better way to do it, a more cooperative way to do it. They just didn't have that. They didn't have that knowledge. They really felt like they were operating correctly. So did they not follow the things that they were asking for in the CUP? No, they didn't, because they were still assuming that they had some time to work on those things. And that's what I'm asking for today. I'd simply, and I believe the staff would back me up on this, a continuance so that we can, or a table in the item, so we have a chance to meet with those residents one-on-one and invite the city council members on site.
So how long have you been on board with them?
2 weeks?
2 weeks.
Or since you saw me, 3 weeks.
So I have some issues with some of the things that you said. The first was that they thought they were doing what they were supposed to do. They weren't fully aware. We gave a pass with the first 2 cups. We gave a pass. We could have shut it down, been done at that point, and said, figure it out and then come back to us and then we'll let you open. We didn't. We were generous. We let it stay open. And we had staff work to try to get this cup figured out. That was 7 months ago, at minimum 7 months ago, if not longer. You can't play, we didn't know. You can't do that over and over and over again. I know you're new to this group, but as a business, you can't do that. I mean, you can. It's just as obvious that it's a lame excuse.
I meant earlier in the process, not at that
right,
point.
earlier
You're
in the
right. You're
process.
correct.
I'll give you that.
Yes.
But now they're fully aware. It's been 7 months. We've had 7 months of complaints, probably even more than that, because a complaint is what spurred this whole process. This isn't, we didn't know. There's been more than 7 months to meet with residents. There's only 2, as you said. Why could they have not been met with in the last 7 months? Told to not make improvements until this process is done. So I understand if you're going through a zoning process and you have to do something that's going to require a permit, like a big wall or something, obviously you're going to want to wait until your zoning is correct because you don't want to invest that money in that. As for the lights and the operating hours and the noise, that is all free. That is all something you get to decide on your own. You don't have to have a permit to stop making noise. You don't have to have a permit to change your operating hours to be in compliance with what you're asking for in the cup. These are concerns that have been ongoing. The noise, the light, the beeping has been ongoing. We received a letter saying, we stopped beeping. We got a special certification, special permission that we don't have to do backup beeping anymore and we can use flags or do whatever. And so we turned off the beeping. I sat out there on Bolton Road, which isn't even right next to the business, at 4 o'clock in the morning, and there was beeping and banging on the trucks or whatever it is. Light shining down everywhere. And that was on Bolton Road, which is a considerable distance away. It's way farther away than the 2 residents are. My concern is that there has been these things that pile up and pile up and pile up and pile up. I don't know that a cup is going to solve anything. We put a cup with 50 restrictions. Are they going to be followed? None of them have been followed to this point. Nobody's proved that any of these things can be followed. If we had seen a business that said, we want to use these operating hours, we're going to show you. We've been operating under these hours for the last 3 months. Great. You're showing me that you can operate and that you're committed to doing that. You know, we know that residents are complaining. Instead of harassing them and belittling them and saying that they don't know what they're talking about, we don't have a well, maybe we'll go out and talk to them and figure out how to work with those residents. Great. That shows progress. That shows trying to work with the situation, trying to follow the cup, trying to be a good neighbor, trying to be a good resident of Cibolo. I've not seen any of that. And it's frustrating because we really did go out on a limb. We've not done this for any other business. We wanted Superior to be successful. And now it's like, well, we can do whatever we want. We're going to ask for a cup, and then we may or may not follow the rules because we're not following them now. How are we supposed to trust that? And I know you're new, and I know you're getting the brunt of this, but that's where I'm at as my opinion with the city. I don't feel like we can trust that any conditions of any cup can be followed because up until this point, we have not seen anything be followed.
I can understand that. I really can. And all I can tell you is that I've been doing it for over a decade and that it is common for business owners to not fully understand. Some do. Some can get it and say, this is what we should follow and go out and let's talk to the residents and implement these things before we're actually approved for them. It's not always the case. But as whether or not you can trust them, I mean, that's why they hired somebody like me, is to come along to say, this is what you need to do and you have to do it. These things are all in the CUP. If they're not followed, you pull the C of O. They're not allowed to operate. It's very simple. And one of the conditions that we put in there was that the city could inspect at any time and that there's a monthly inspection that goes on through a third-party inspector to come and check on everything. So it wouldn't be you having to trust necessarily. It would be putting a process in place that says it's there. And if it's not followed, it's pulled.
Does that third-party inspector have a location that's closer than Dallas?
They work all over Texas.
Can you come up here so the people online can hear?
This third-party company works all over. They don't just operate within Dallas. They go all over with their engineers.
Okay, thank you. It is. It's just not loud. You got to get up on it.
It should turn green on the side like this.
We have an item 13G coming up.
It's on the bottom.
Somehow meld these two concepts, because if we're going to look at New York, and this is in New York, I understand where you're coming from, Ms. Cunningham. A little frustrated myself in some regards as well. There's a lot of back and forth in this thing, but I think if we're going to look at removing the Muir, that does change how we look at things in what is currently the Muir.
Just modify the mirror is what I'm talking about.
Whatever.
Not remove it.
Okay, but I mean, once you start modifying, removing, adding, subtracting, then you've got to look at everything else that's going down and down there. So I don't want to make this a long wait, but I contemplated today thinking about this with this item 13G of maybe I don't want to even do it, but table this until we figure out what that conversation looks like tonight and what direction we're looking at with other businesses down in the Muir and see what that looks like. Because the Muir, as it lays out to me, as it currently sits, doesn't hold anything down there that looks like a Muir. It looks like
kind of a light industrial business park, right? And you know, we haven't seen an applicant come down there to put an apartment building in yet. And so, I mean, I just think that maybe we've named it wrong in 2013 when they created it, and maybe we do need to look at that. But then in looking at that, do we make a decision on this and then realize later that we made the wrong decision because we're now looking at the mirror in another way?
Well,
So-
yeah, I think they're two separate issues, 100%. You know, I mean, they are asking for a delay. That's what they want. They want us to table this and take a look at it. However, I think the nearby, even the owner of the property and the nearby neighbors, I think they've had enough. You know, they've had, I think, about a year to deal with this, and given them delaying this is going to cause further heartache. Mr. Councilman.
I don't even know where to go with this. Honestly, myself, this is personal experience today, 12:45 p.m. And I just looking through here, the little PowerPoint that you put here, in conformance with regulations, installed a temporary washout station to contain wastewater. Well, I sat there in the cul-de-sac and watched one of your concrete trucks empty his chute, empty his belly into the pile. He pulled out onto the road with concrete still coming out the snout, went up under the load rack, put quite a bunch of water in his drum, pulled back out, and got over into the other lot and just drove and let the water come out down your property. That's nowhere containing it. There's no barrier there. There's no nothing. This whole thing has been nothing but just made a mockery of us. Everything out there is covered in dirt. The road is covered in dirt. Employees sweep the road on a regular basis. It's horrible out there. And I was there at 12:45 today. So
I still believe it's a chance
as
for
far
you
as I'm
guys to
concerned,
implement.
We've given more than enough opportunity.
But not by regulation. And that's what they're asking for now, is to say, put all those regulations in place that aren't there now.
You just put all this right here and said you've installed a temporary washout station, and I sat right there at 12:45 and it didn't. So did something change between 12:45 and 7:45?
No, I'm just talking about regulated activity.
Yeah.
That at this point, you see that activity happen and there's no recourse.
So how
What I'm
many-
asking for, there would be recourse if the
How many
CUP was in
concrete
place.
or related businesses does this business partner in with? How many concrete related businesses does this owner have?
As far as how many plants?
Mm-hmm. Superior or any of the owners related companies? 5. This isn't like, oh, we just didn't know, we're brand new. Got 5 others?
Right.
4 others?
And I'd have to say, well, we can put restrictions and we can inspect. We as a city have better things to do than babysit a batch plant. Just my opinion.
Do any of the council members have any discussion on this item? Councilman Hicks?
Yeah, I'd like to just add that it's very unfortunate because we know that we have Cibolo employees at this plant, and I've been following this, although I'm new to council, and as a candidate, I was following it, and I just feel that at this point, good faith has been exhausted, that this council has given plenty of opportunities, and to know that there's other five other plans, that this isn't anything new, and that as far as being considerate neighbors, there has been lack of consideration, not just to the residents that live around you, however, to other businesses. It is just very unfortunate because it puts us in a hard place, because we do have residents who work there. And as Ms. Cunningham has said, multiple chances have been given. And then even up to today, what Councilman Roberts has said, at 12:45 still, the right thing has not been done. So regardless of whatever recourse we place on a cup, to Ms. Cunningham's point, the lack of good faith has been exhausted. How can we know that those recourses would even be, a deterrent at this point? I would just think, just as a business coming in, that you would naturally want to be a good neighbor, that you would want to do right by your fellow man. And I just feel like in this particular instance, they're failing at that. And I think it's just most unfortunate because as council stands, they've done everything that they've possibly could at this point to keep it in operations. And we were just asking good faith, consideration, being good neighbors. And at this point, 12:45 p.m. today, there just hasn't been anything demonstrated. I think it's very unfortunate. And that's all I have to say.
Well said. Thank you, Norma. Also, I think P&Z got this one right. If I remember correctly, I think P&Z voted unanimously to deny the cup. Is that correct, Kelsey? Okay. So yeah, I think they got this one right. Councilman Hicks, do you have anything?
I guess the only thing I can say is, like with TG, we went out there, we inspected it, we looked, but all I've heard from the residents, and they call me, they've got my cell number, and they call me, and they tell me, hey, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, and I know that there's another batch plant across the road, across I-10, but for it to continue on, knowing that there's hours, and I understand that we told them don't do any more improvements. That was part of, them getting the conditional use permit. Don't do any more. I'm sure that y'all wanted to put up the fencing and put up whatever y'all needed to do, but we put a restriction on that. Wait until you get this before you do. I completely understand. But as it's been worded here, multiple times, they continue to stay out of compliance. And it's not like we don't need cement plants, because we do. We've got houses being built. I mean, sidewalks being built. I-10 being built. And a lot of that's being built with concrete. It's just disheartening because, I sit there and spoke to your client. Went up in his office with Mr. Benson, sat down and talked. And as Ms. Cunningham stated, we went to Mr. Reed because we shut him down. And we were like, whoa, we didn't want to do that to any business. Don't want to do it to a business. Not one that brings in revenue. And I know that it's like the new laws that have been passed. If you're going and you're pouring concrete in Seguin, well, they're getting that revenue. Cibolo's not getting that revenue. But yet we're hearing the complaints. I have a hard time with this because, nice guy, nice people, love to keep them in business. I just have a hard time whenever it's been time and time again. They just don't listen. Now, I do agree with Mr. Benson that, we do have another item on here, but I don't want to put my citizens at risk for another 2 weeks, 3 weeks, having to deal with, midnight, 4:30 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning, having to put up with it. But I know that we're going to be discussing the MURE here in a later agenda item. I would like to table it and postpone it, but I don't think that y'all are going to be doing the right thing. You can sit there and tell me at that mic, yeah, we're going to do the right thing. And then 2 days from now, I've got Mr. Calhoun call me. Well, Mr. Hicks, I voted for you, and I respect you. And then you tabled it. But guess what they're doing this morning? 5 o'clock in the morning. They're still out there. I can't do that. These are my constituents. These are the people that I entrusted. They entrusted me to make decisions for them. They entrusted me. And so I can't, this is my district out there. This is my district. And you know, whenever something's going on, I show up, and I went and I listened and I talked. But whenever it's being ignored, it hurts.
All right. Thank you very much, Councilman Hicks. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to disapprove the ordinance as it's written, number C, for conditional use permit for 5.98 acres of real property located at 146 Mott's Parkway to allow for a concrete batching plant permanent.
I'll second it.
I got a motion and a second. We'll start this one with Councilman Benson.
What was the motion was deny?
Deny.
Aye.
Aye.
I'd just like to say really quick that council has shown consideration to the employees of this concrete plant. Council has fought with multiple opportunities, but the business has not fought for their employees. Only just a couple of weeks ago did they find a representative to represent that to make things right. So I also deny the cut. Aye.
Ayes have it, 7-0. Thank you. All right, moving on to agenda item number D, approval, disapproval of an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances for the City of Cibolo, Texas. Chapter 14, Buildings and Building Regulations, Section 14.2, Building Codes adopted by the city to amend existing building code provisions relating to building foundation. Mr. Hanson.
Thank you, Council and Mayor. So I have two to present for you today, 12D and 12E, but 12D first. This will amend the city municipal code by requiring elevation measurements to be measured and submitted to the city after concrete is poured. This will provide a baseline that can be compared against measurements taken at a later date if shifting is known or suspected. So essentially, before a CVO can be issued for any home, we have to have a baseline measurement of a slab.
Well, you do realize that all of Cibolo shifts. I mean, that's just the property that we happen to live in.
Mm-hmm. So yes, it shifts. This not only gives you, like, it'll tell you it's shifting, but also tell you where it's shifting more, because we're going to take measurements at all the exterior corners. If there's four, there's four. If there's 8 corners to a house, there's 8 corners to a house. And so we can see where the shifting's happening. It's a useful tool for engineers, the foundation repair contractors, and also for homeowners. If they want to have a measurement taken themselves, it's good ammunition when they're going to use their warranty.
Yeah, this is a good thing.
No, it's a very good thing.
So, yeah, so when you do this, is it right after the slab dries before the frame goes up? What's the time frame?
Yes, that is generally when one is taken. That's the easiest time to take it. You can get really on all the corners.
Mm-hmm.
I personally like taking it after flooring is in, because then you're going to be measuring the flooring again when you're if the measurement's taken again.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I like what you're saying, and maybe we've got to do 2 measurements, because how I look at it is they'll pour the slab, but they're going to come back in and put some fill dirt in. They're going to put some grass on it.
Well, this is actually taken on top of the slab.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's one of the brands is Zip Level. You may have seen it. It's a measuring device on a string that uses gases to measure elevation heights from a set base point.
Okay. So it's
And
going to
we'll put that
sea
on
level.
top of the
Okay.
slab, and that's where we'll start the measurements from.
Okay, and then what's the follow-up? Because I know you take that baseline. However, because what is it, about a year that they want to take a second measurement to see, or is it 6 months? What's the industry standard there?
So there
to
really
do
is no
comparisons?
industry standard for this. If most new homes, it's pretty industry standard for new home foundation warranties is 10 years. So
Yep.
you have up until that point to use your warranty. A lot of home inspections are done at the 1-year mark or just prior to
Right.
move-in to hit that first warranty that's about to expire.
Okay, so this data could be given to the home buyer at closing. So that was one of their documents that they have. And then when they do their 1-year inspection, they could get the measurements, see what the differences are, if it's substantial or normal.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I like this.
And Mayor, Council, I just want to clarify, we can't force the home builder to provide this information. It will be on file with the building permit. Any homeowner can come in and say, I'd like a copy of my building permit and the elevation that was shot upon construction, and it will be provided at that.
Okay.
Now, this
so
is the
that's
ordinance
good.
that we're implementing to where the builder.
The builder
has-
is going to be taking this.
Okay, that's
and
why I want to
bringing it
make
me.
sure that it's no
No.
cost incurred on the
Nope.
city.
So
Okay.
for the home builder, they're not required, like Mr. Reed said.
Right.
But an open records request would give it to them.
Yeah.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve of an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Cibolo, Texas, Chapter 14, Building and Building Regulations, Section 14.2, Building Codes adopted by the city to amend existing building code provisions related to building foundation.
Second, but I have a question. Before we,
Councilman?
can you say that again real quick? You're saying that the builder has to do the measurement, and it's on file with part of the building permit, but they don't have to disclose it. The individual would have to specifically ask for the information.
It is their document that they've paid for. They're not required to hand over construction documents to a homeowner. They can be issued through a open records request. And this is to keep the expense on the builder.
I guess my one question here would be, how does the homeowner know that we have access to that document? Is there something we can say that has to be disclosed to the homeowner that
Even the
that
existence of
pertinent-
the document, right?
The
I mean, there's-
existence is on file at the city of Cibolo and XYZ, this is how you get it.
Because what you're finding now with all these people whose foundations are failing is that you, and here at least we'd have the data, I guess, but they'd have to know that. I mean, part of the problem is that their foundation is failing, and then they go, well, where do I go to fix it? And you call the warranty line who's, you know, you may as well just go stand in the corner and talk to the wall, and then, right? I mean, I don't know what you're gonna do with the data anyway, other than to say it passed the original inspection, right? But at least, there's gotta be some way we can let them know the document exists, otherwise you're just gonna end up with these circles of people running around going, what do I do? And I don't know that that'll help knowing that it passed to begin with.
It's not a pass-fail to begin with.
Well, whatever, the measurement.
Sure,
but I mean-
baseline measurements, and I think you're correct in your assessment. Many won't know. We can put it on our website. We now have control over what the building department has
See, I
on the
like
website.
that. I like that because
gotta
we
be
have a
some way
lot
to
of
let people
foundation
know.
issues.
Yeah, there's just gotta be some way to let people know, and that's why when I heard that, I'm like, wait, what? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
doing a FOIA request about your slab seems like, I mean, who would even think that? Sure.
Yeah, well, it's better to have it now than we did in the past. I mean, I'd like to have one at my house,
But would
you know, when it
ever
was
think
built.
to look to the city of Cibolo in a FOIA request to get the slab measurements? I mean,
I know, but moving forward, it's better to have this than not have it.
No, but I'm
You know what I
saying,
mean?
but let's
It is.
put it on the
And-
website and say this is how you get it. And
That's a great
does
idea.
it have to be FOIA'd? I mean, is it really, you know, that?
Sure.
And even Miss Cunningham can post it on her Facebook
Mm-hmm.
and start spreading the word around that it's been, because she does a good job of that, so.
There might be one advantage of social
Just saying.
media.
My 3 likes.
And we do find that many of the foundation repair permits we get that are applied
Yeah.
for, they do ask us this type of information.
Yeah,
Hey, can I
exactly.
see-
Oh, really?
That's exactly the time that
And if you go
they'd
to
be
file a
giving it to
warranty
them.
claim, that's the first thing the warranty company's gonna want. Well, where's your baseline measurement? No, it didn't move that much. Well, if you have the baseline from when the house was produced or built, then you have more of a leg to get their warranty
Them to pay
company
for it, the
to
warranty
pay
it
for
out, yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
I like it.
All right.
Who
very good.
seconded this?
PG.
Okay, so yeah, so you said yes and seconded. All right, let's keep it rolling.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, ayes have it, 7-0. Thank you very much, Mr. Hanson. Good idea.
What's the second one?
The
All
second
right,
one-
moving on. Approval, disapproval for E of an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Cibolo, Texas, Chapter 14, Buildings and Building Regulations, Section 114.2, Building Codes adopted by the city to add a new local amendment to the building code relating to inspections and building foundations.
So if you recall from my presentation earlier this year, I spoke about a current amendment to the building code which already has increased foundation requirements by increasing the depth of exterior beams and widening the depth.
Yes.
So what this is going to do, this new ordinance, it will further increase the depth of exterior beams. And again, this is to prevent moisture from getting up and under the slab and moving it that way. And this ordinance will also increase the poly thickness to 10 mils instead of 6. So water coming up from directly under the slab and within the bagging material while forming the slab, that will keep it from reaching the surface.
Yeah, this is great. Yeah, anything that we can do to strengthen our foundation requirements is fantastic.
I'll make a
I'm all in
motion
favor.
to approve this ordinance.
Okay.
12E is written.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. We'll start this one with Councilman Hicks.
Aye.
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 Ayes have it, 7-0. Thanks again, Mr. Hanson.
Thank you, Council.
All right. Okay, moving on to, it looks like Peggy wanted me to get to item number K. So approval, disapproval of an ordinance of the city of Cibolo on the rezoning of 5.2 acres of real properties located at Dobie Boulevard and West Borgfield Road. Property IED number 144902 from low density single family residential SF2 to community retail service C2. Ms. Huerta.
Yes, the Plan and Zoning Commission recommended approval by a 4-to-1 vote. The project name is Self-Storage Cibolo. The owner is Steve Morales, MD Management LLC, represented by Sidney Rich. The applicant will seek to obtain a conditional use permit to allow for the development for a self-storage convenience storage. For a self-storage facility, convenience storage is an allowed use with a conditional use permit in C2 and C3 districts and by right in C4. The applicant is requesting C2 to accommodate the lower intensity and residential uses surrounding the property. And the applicant is in the audience if you have any questions, as well as staff is here for any clarification.
You said a 4-to-1 vote?
Correct.
Because this says 7-0.
I think, are you looking at the zone change?
Am I looking at the wrong packet?
Okay. Okay,
Mhm.
12K. It's a little further, yeah.
Okay.
We had to move up the zone change because you had to consider the zone change
Got it.
before the
Okay,
conditional
thank
use
you.
permit.
All right, do we have a motion on this one?
I just got a couple of questions. So we almost have no SF2 that isn't south of 78. And this seems like a reasonable place for SF2. We've asked for some of these type of developments, and for whatever reason, they don't come. And so rather than a dental office, I said that for you, the mayor. Rather than a dental office, we're going to put up the other thing that we do, which is storage units. Supposedly, the rezone comes and then the cup, but you know, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Huerta, this would be on city water, city sewer, SF2?
I'm not, yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, I mean, we're looking at a great opportunity to have some half-acre lots, and we're going to get some more storage facilities.
Well, I know, I hear you, but so it's one of those things like if you zone it, they will come, right? However,
zone it, then they may come.
No, here's the deal. It's like I've been involved, you know, for this in the city for many years, and I know we have a ton of SF2 all over town. I've yet to see anybody pull a permit and build on SF2 yet. It's basically a dead zone. It's basically if you're zoned SF2, it means nothing will ever come there. Is really what that means.
Well, that's
Name one project that's happened so far on SF2
I'm
land.
just making you know, we used to go through this in planning and zoning all the time, and if you change everybody's zoning every time they come, then they never will build it. I promise that too.
Right. No one
You know?
builds SF2 in Cibolo. Nobody does.
So I'd like to mention.
It'll be
this
50
real
more
quick.
years, maybe 1,000 years. No one's going to build on it.
I also like the
Name
SF2
one builder.
zonings, and I like to see developers come in and develop on that. One thing that this one was unique to me is that it's 5.2 acres. How many SF2 houses are we going to build on that
Okay.
10 and then give or take the sidewalks and the roads, so it's even less than that. So then ideally, what developer is going to come in to build on really less than 5 acres?
Yeah.
So we have apartments going in across the street down the road. A storage facility could be a feasible option for this particular area. I know even going all the way down 1103, we have apartments going in, and I know that there's a new storage facility just as well. But I figure that this was one of those things that could be needed. It satisfies a 5-acre area with parking, and it's really not the worst. It has very low, minimal traffic coming through. And the one that got me was it's just 5 acres. You really can't do a whole lot of SF2 on 5 acres.
Agreed. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Councilman Benson. Did you have more to say?
Nope.
Okay.
You can't do a lot of SF2 on that little tiny property, but all the property next to that church is also SF2. So.
Won't be much longer.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, if we just keep changing, we keep saying we want SF2, but if you ask real nice, we're going to change it.
Who's going
That's
to put
what's-
SF2 there?
We had one, there's a development on Green Valley Road that was SF2, it got changed to SF4
I know, but
before my
who
time.
who has built SF2 ever in Cibolo?
My point that you made earlier, developers want to build as many houses on a piece of property as they possibly can because they make more money off of it.
I know, but who has
correct?
ever built SF2? Nobody.
No, I'm not done.
Yeah.
They want to build as many houses as they possibly can. If we keep changing every SF2, when someone asks, nobody's ever going to build.
That'll be a
Because-
self-fulfilling prophecy.
It's basically, yeah,
Let
it's
them
basically
build
a
'cause there won't
punishment
be
to the
any left.
landowner that basically says, you know what, no one can build here, period.
Let's notice that there's also C1 right across the street. Just for a second. You know, I mean, I'm just saying, C1 across the
With
street.
SF2 right behind it.
Right. I'm talking about, yeah, just across W Boulevard.
Well, neighborhood
Yeah.
commercial would be near a neighborhood.
Across,
Yeah.
it's residential right now, the way that it's being used, but it's zone C1.
Every time we change an SF2, we are setting a precedent. So every time someone else comes on, they're just going to look at the property. They're not going to look at our master plan. They're not going to look at our future land use plan. They're not going to look at any of that because they see SF2 means city will change their mind. Because every single time an SF2 has come up here with someone wanting to change it, the city's like, sure, why not? Nobody wants to build SF2. Nobody's going to build SF2 if we are
Nope.
such pushovers.
Where's the long
every
list?
time.
Where's the long line of people lined up to build SF2?
Mark,
All the
we only got-
developers.
Mayor, we only got rid of SF6 like a year and a half ago.
I know, exactly.
You
The
know, we
reason-
gotta-
the
we
reason
gotta-
why-
we got to make things in little baby
The
steps
reason
here.
why we took SF6 off the menu is because that was way too dense, and SF5, and so therefore SF4 is really medium density, to tell you the
It's really
truth.
not, though. Have you been through our SF4 neighborhood?
I think that we need to change our SF4 zoning to have something more palatable that people would actually approve. You know, if SF4 is a problem, let's look at SF4 and modify SF4 to make it something that people want.
Keep it SF2.
No builders are going to build SF2. Name one.
We
Yes, let's the vote decide.
All right. Well, we will. Okay, we'll call for a vote on K. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yes.
We're calling for a motion on K.
I'm just saying we need to get this, I mean, we're limited on time, so we got a lot of stuff to do.
I move we disapprove K.
I'll second that.
Okay, we'll start with Councilman Hicks.
Nay.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right, the ayes have it, 6-1 for item K. So that's a disapproval of the rezone. All right, moving on to item number F. Approval, disapproval of an ordinance of the city of Cibolo for a conditional use permit for 5.2 acres of real property located south of the intersection of Dobie Boulevard and West Borgfield Road, property ID 144902, to allow for convenience storage. Ms. Huerta.
Well, this item is related to the prior zoning that you denied, so now there's, it wouldn't be eligible to be considered for a conditional use permit when the zoning wasn't in place.
Okay. So do we have a motion?
Second.
All right. We'll start with Councilman Benson.
Aye.
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 Okay.
All right. So the ayes have it with a 6-1 vote to disapprove number F. All right. Moving on to G. Approval, disapproval of an ordinance of the City of Cibolo on a variance to reduce the transparency requirement for certain real property located at 2432 FM 1103 and setting conditions for variance. Ms. Huerta.
Yes, the Plan and Zoning Commission made a recommendation of approval by a 7-0 vote. The project name is Salad and Go. The owners are Go Concepts LLC. Representative is Zach Koenig with Rogue Architects. The applicant is proposing an 875 square foot building which will house the food preparation area and will not have access to the interior for the public. The proposed elevation plan shows that 9% of the building exterior is transparent to conceal the interior food prep area from the public. The variance will only apply to the restaurant to be placed along Green Valley Road on the southeasternmost portion of the property. The applicant is here if you have any questions, as well as staff.
So we have a requirement that says you have to be so much window. And I guess I don't understand, because of food prep, they don't want people looking in while they're
Correct.
prepping food, but they could still put windows above that height, right, and let the sunlight in. I mean, it seems odd that we would just have this sort of box of concrete in the middle of the neighborhood. I mean, I just don't know how aesthetic that's going to look if we don't have some windows. So
Well,
not
you
an
could have
architect.
windows, but make them like not transparent.
Or
Well,
even just build them up high enough where no human being can see, and let the sun in, and just so that it looks like it's not a, kind of, I have a vision. I'm sure you're here to straighten me out, but I have this vision of like a seedy bar somewhere. Like there's just concrete wall everywhere, and inside they're doing massive food prep, and I'm like, do I want to eat there? Like, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it's fine.
No.
I'm not trying to make disparaging comments.
Yeah.
I'm just like, why can't you put some windows 10 feet up the wall and let the sun in and let your employees see some sun while they're making I don't know.
Well, and based on, and our thought process behind it too is, again, we're only 875 square feet. We have no inside or on-site dining. Our concept shows windows all along the front of the building, as well as your standard drive-through windows on both sides, because we'll have your standard drive-through as well as a mobile express window. There's plenty of light. There's plenty of incoming outside sun for the employees as well. Our thought is, because of the small size that we have and the layout, we have machinery such as soft drinks, things of that nature, that will just be blocking the windows. So essentially, customers and our employees are not going to get the best use of the windows. If the windows are installed, we end up installing basically a tent that defeats the purpose of the windows. We like a nice, clean, non-seedy bar look. And so, yeah, and again, we will be facing directly onto Green Valley and have full visibility for the customers as they're pulling in.
This is for your salad place, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Well,
so what's the problem?
We've
got a long agenda.
I understand, but I need to add to this. Because Councilman Hogue had brought up one time, because of this same problem. Somebody wanted less windows, it cost them less money to build. And I don't know, is the building already built?
No, sir.
Okay. So what Councilman Hogue had asked was, you put up, your banner. It's kind of like you're saying your tent, but put the windows in that are required, and then you can put where you can see out, but you can't see in.
From the interior, strictly because of the small size of our building, those windows will be blocked on the inside anyway, based on the fixtures that we have on the inside.
I understand, and then so you're not going to see out. People aren't going to be able to see in, because you can go to these, like Planet Fitness or something. They've got this big old plaster on it. It's like a tent. People can see out, but you can't see in. but it's still got the window coverage that we in our UDC require. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So this is just the way you build your building. Have you built more than one of these before?
Yes, sir.
Okay, this is just the way you do it in all these towns?
Yes, sir.
And then, did you run into this in every town you go to?
No, sir. No.
Only us?
No, no, sir. We have run into it a couple times. Usually the variance is approved just basically based on our square footage and our visual appeal and what we bring to the community.
All right. We got a motion on this?
Also, just really quick for council, we, in the August 22nd meeting, we did get a copy of their architect, project manager's petition for the variance. It said in the architect's opinion, this level of transparency applied to the Solid and Go building at the address above is detrimental to both the building and surrounding environment's design. Therefore, we are requesting a reduction of the 20% glazing required. Our goals are to keep the current horizontal and vertical alignments to ensure fully waterproof transition details, to provide adequate clearance above our countertops for the typical power data receptacles for our drink line equipment, and of course, to provide a design that works in harmony with the client's needs and surrounding sitting context. Just bring that,
Okay.
that we did have this architect.
Okay.
You going to make a motion?
So I'd like to go ahead and make that motion to approve.
All
What are we
right.
at?
G.
We're on G.
To approve G as written.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. We'll start with Councilman Benson.
No.
Aye.
Aye.
Nope.
Ayes have it, 5-0, 5-2.
Thank you guys so much for your time.
Welcome. All right, so we're going to jump around a little bit and go to 13G. I see Jeff's been patiently waiting here. Discussion on the pros and cons of removing the Muri, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, overlay district and modify the UDC to incorporate a planned unit development PUD zoning district to foster quality development that will protect the image of Cibolo along I-10 and land use compatibility. So this is one that I put on the agenda along with Councilman Hicks. We had spoken with Jeff, and as he came up here and spoke during Citizens to be Heard about his desire to rent or purchase, I'm not sure what your arrangement was, but basically either rent or buy land over in the Mott Parkway development, I believe it's called. And so that particular land is it's a cul-de-sac over there near I-10. There was one spot where you had actually looked at land for the 4th fire station over there at one time, right?
No, the city had looked, and then actually where the other one that we denied earlier,
yeah.
where that was where we were going to put Fire Station 4. I
Right.
found the piece of parcel of land down from it, which was a better deal. So,
Right.
But to get to that point, yes, talking with to Jeff, he would like to, and he just lives around the corner from there. He lives right off of Hakerville Road, and he wants to. I believe he wants to purchase it from the Motts, but he probably lease to own or something to that effect. I don't know. That's his business, not ours. We don't need to know that business, but I think it benefits the city because he does a lot of work out there on I-10, especially with all the construction we've got out there right now. There's been a lot of accidents out there. He's having to run out there every single time, and if you had a spot to come out just around right off the access road, I think it'd be beneficial to him. But it's something I've been looking at for years. Back when Mr. Herrera was here, I kept asking him, why do we not have a tow truck company in the city of Cibolo? I think it'd be beneficial to us because, there are those people that like to drink and drive, and I mean, we can pull them over. There are those that have accidents, and if he's got his shop right out there on 10, right, but where a lot of the action happens, I think it'd be beneficial to him to be able to have it there. So, but we've got this problem because of the Muir. You can't have, I guess, tow yards in there or something to that effect.
Yeah. Right. So we're looking for an impound lot there.
Well, it's not so much an impound. I mean, they bring them in and they wait for
somebody to come pick it up.
The company,
yeah,
to come
temporary,
pick them up.
right?
It's temporary, but it's not like you go to PA or New York or Chicago where you see those towing wars where they sit there.
This is real towing.
Yes, where they go and they just pick up the cars and they put them in the impound lot. And they come and pay $400. So, I mean, I would like to see what we can do as a council to be able to make this happen. I don't know. I mean, there's things we got to look at, but I would like to help this man out because he does help the city out a lot.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Mr. Reed's got something. So.
Yeah, Mr. Reed, go ahead.
Mayor, Council, I think the easiest fix for right now, if you want to take the shortest route to your destination, is direct staff to change the land use table so that a tow yard is allowed use by a cop.
Okay.
And Ms. Kelsey, Jordan Reed wants to say something there?
So the prohibition that we're currently dealing with an auto impound or a similar use within the Muir District is that Article 4 itself specifically says it's a prohibited use. So it's not just a matter of requiring a cup or not in the use table. If council does want to allow that auto use, it would require us to amend that article to remove that use from explicitly prohibited, which is currently is.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the quickest and easiest way to do it. It's not like we have a ton of Muries all over town, right? There's what, 3 of them, right? So of the thousands of properties throughout Cibolo, we have 3. So it's not like this is going to open up Pandora's box and we're going to have some huge problem with, tow yards all over the whole city. This is us just changing one phrase within our own paperwork, our own table, to make this thing work. Yeah, exactly.
I just think, though, ultimately, since this has been brought up, we really ought to look at this Muir, because if you read what's in our ordinance on this Muir, I'm not even sure that what's going on down there is a Muir. And I think if we're going to look at this and start fussing with language, we ought to fuss with the whole darn thing, because it doesn't make sense. I mean, if you read this and then you go back to the agenda item we just disapproved, you're like, what? Why did we just disapprove that? Right? So, I mean, I think we have to have real conversations about what our UDC and what our zoning ordinances say, because I think it'd be a great business down there. Is it a Muir? No. And we shouldn't define it as such. So we need to, we can do quick fixes, but quick fixes put us back in jams all the time.
Right.
Somebody did a quick fix and gave us no tow yards in some place that absolutely
should have.
Yeah, it's right off I-10. It makes total sense.
I think if we're going to mess with the language in the UDC and have to update the UDC, I think we need to fine if you want to make an pen and ink change now, but I think that we need to get that on the planning and zoning's docket, and let's look at what
absolutely.
Let's do two agenda items. One to do what he's talking about and send it to P&Z, and then another one to do this quick agenda. You know what I mean?
I'm fine with that. I have no issue with that. But
we'll give that direction, because this is a direction, not a.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. We're not voting on this, but is that okay? Does anyone object to that? Who's sitting on council?
I'll just point out to council the more comprehensive resolution to some of the points that Mr. Benson was talking about is part of the I-10 corridor long-range plan that we are currently undergoing. And so the consultants will be making recommendations on how you implement the new land use plan to include what is in the UDC, and does the UDC hinder or encourage the vision that you have for the I-10 corridor.
Gotcha.
Right.
Here today, it's calling for an outcome that doesn't look like what we have down there.
Okay. So yeah,
we got Muir on that portion's a Muir, the racetrack's a Muir, and then across the street from the racetrack is a Muir. So
okay.
Did they just create those when I had no idea what else to do?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll do two agenda items. One to reimagine the Muir, Councilman Benson, and then another one just to fix that language, for that real specific. So we don't need to make Jeff wait while we reinvent the wheel. Okay.
No, you shouldn't.
All right. So that's moving on. So if we can have that done by the next council meeting and have that on the agenda for the next council meeting.
Maybe the one after that.
Just the one to change the table, why would that take more than 2 weeks?
Oh, P and Z meets tomorrow.
Why do we have to take it to P&Z? Why?
This is an amendment to the UDC.
Doesn't matter what they say, we'll still vote for it.
Doesn't matter, it's legally, it has to go to them.
All right. Okay, so we're looking at a month?
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, Jeff. All right.
They don't get along with the horses.
Mayor and council, every property owner has the right, or an applicant with the property owner's consent, has the right to make an application even while council's considering changing an ordinance. So, at a risk, an applicant could turn in for a cup or a towing yard on this property, but he would have to understand that the council doesn't approve the
Is this
ordinance.
gonna be a cup or PV?
It's gonna be a cup, a conditional use permit.
Because I thought somebody said something once about, okay.
It'd be good.
That's a
All
bad
the
word.
acronyms are.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's not a rolled over tractor trailer, y'all.
It can be running concurrent, so that,
You don't waste any more time.
so that you can start in the next, at the next submittal date that the planning department has, rather than running sequentially.
Yeah, 'cause they've got a
starting
PhD longer than that.
after council approves the ordinance. But again, the applicant would carry full risk, because if council doesn't approve the ordinance, then the application fee and all the work that has been done by consultants that you would be paying would be for nothing.
Okay, well, we're going to move on to 14, number 14, executive session. The city council will meet in executive session as authorized by the Texas Government Code, section 551.
Mayor, real quick.
Yeah.
Those three, we should be able to get through these three ordinances pretty quick. There's stuff that we've already, yeah, before we go into executive session, please.
What, you talking about H,
I, and J.
Okay, no discussion then. Let's move through. All right. Approval, disapproval of an ordinance of the city of Cibolo for the rezoning of 5 acres of real property located at 322 Grandkid Lane from low-density, single-family residential, SF2, district to ag. Ms. Huerta.
Yes, the owners are Tanner James Hester. The purpose of this rezone is to qualify for the plating exemption that was approved by City Council on August 8th. The owner was gifted 5 acres by family and is intending to build a single-family residential structure on the property.
I'll make a motion to approve of an ordinance of the city of Cibolo on the rezoning of 5 acres of real properties located at 322 Grandkid Lane from the low-density SF2 to ag. Hicks and Mahoney.
Second, first and second.
Mahoney
Okay.
seconded it.
I'm sorry. Who made the motion? You did. And Mahoney, you made the second? Okay, we'll start with Councilman Benson.
Aye.
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 So 7-0. All right, moving on to I, approval, disapproval of an ordinance of the city of Cibolo on the rezoning of 0.32 acres of real properties located at 504 North Main Street from medium-density, single-family residential SF4 district to community retail service C2. Ms. Huerta.
This is one that we've already discussed, and I don't think we need to.
13, aye. Second.
Okay, Mr. Benson's, and then Roberts.
Somebody.
Benson and Roberts.
Somebody to my right.
So we got a motion.
And a second.
You, and a second. You. Okay, we'll start with Councilman Higgs.
Aye.
Aye.
This was right under our limit of 90 days to approve a rezoning to commercial, so aye. Just want to throw that out there.
Nice caveat, aye.
All right, 7-0. Yeah, why are all these zoning ones all individual? We should just put them into the consent agenda. All right, next up, approval, disapproval of an ordinance of the city of Cibolo on the rezoning of 5 acres of real property located at 210 Tolly Road from low-density, single-family residential SF2 district to ag. Ms. Huerta.
Yes, this is a sister property to the one, or just 2 items earlier on the agenda.
And I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion.
12J is written.
We got a motion by Councilman Hicks and a second by Councilwoman Cunningham. We'll start with Councilman Hicks.
Aye.
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 Ayes have it, 7-0. Thank
Now,
you.
Mayor.
Okay, K is done. All right. Let's see. What? All right, so yeah, we'll do one more and then we'll go to executive session. 13A, discussion action on the variance for 504 File Road to eliminate the requirement for sidewalks per section 18.7.a of the UDC.
All right, good evening, everyone. Council, we are requesting your direction on how to move forward with an ordinance for a variance request that was received. The reason why this is coming back tonight is because the last time it was presented to you, you directed us to try to work with the applicant, work with staff, work with our city attorney's office to provide some solutions to a variance, since that's outside of our standard process, which is to either construct the sidewalks or participate in an escrow account. They had 4 items in your staff report for your consideration. You did hear Ms. Kearns, the applicant, express her consideration or hope for that first option. That would be to have an ordinance that approves a variance with a condition that an agreement would be signed requiring construction of the sidewalk at a later date. After conferring with our city attorney's office, they did express some potential concerns with that Ms. Kearns did allude to earlier during the citizens to be heard item. However, we did still want to bring it forward if that's something you would like to direct us to consider. The second option was to approve a variance with a condition exploring a bond be submitted for construction of a sidewalk within a specific amount of time. A third consideration was approval of a variance and a requirement that the sidewalk escrow, which is in the amount of $8 per square foot, be provided. And the fourth option for your consideration is approval of a variance with an upfront cash deposit of that $8 per square foot for the length of the sidewalk per an approved site plan. And so we're requesting direction on how you would like us to draft that ordinance, if you would like to consider a variance, and we'll bring that to the next council meeting.
Well, Mayor, I know that we had given direction to basically one, and I know that Frank's saying no, but that was the direction that we had given.
What's one again?
One is an agreement that, you know, if she, well, if she were to sell it, they're still going to have to come to us to get it verified, like she said. But it's an agreement saying that whenever we do move forward, because I believe in connectivity, being able to connect, we need it. But we don't even have a sidewalk right here across the street yet. We don't have a sidewalk. Ernie's doesn't have a sidewalk.
Okay.
You don't have a sidewalk in front of the there's many places in downtown that do not have the sidewalks, and they've got businesses going.
So is your motion to deny 13A as written?
No, my motion is to move forward with choice one is ordinance approving a variance for condition and agreement would be signed requiring construction of a sidewalk at a later date.
Okay, so if one is an option, there's also 2, 3, and 4. So we can do maybe a vote on one, because it's really not this agenda item isn't written as, you know, we're going with one. You know,
Correct.
so therefore, let's do a vote on one, and if that ends up being a majority vote, then we'll go with one. If not, we'll go to 2, 3, and 4 and move on down the line until we find one everyone agrees on.
We have a motion and second, and that's what we need to vote on, as you mentioned. It's just, I wanted to let the council know that experience-wise, these agreements are difficult to enforce if there is a sale of land in the future. We've had this experience with another city that had to build a road, and the city agreed to delay per agreement. That land was later sold to a corporation. While the agreement was with the individual, there was nothing to assist the city in transferring that agreement. So we will work with an agreement to make it much more solid, requiring an assignment.
You give it teeth.
Correct, given
Okay.
approval, assignment, and so forth. But just want to let you know that without any bond, without any escrow or anything else, it does require the council to approve a variance, but we will have to work on a very strict agreement to make sure it is binding not only on this property owner, but also on future property
Absolutely.
owners.
And I've got no problem with
I
that.
do have a question, Mr. Garza. Okay, so so there may be an issue if council does this agreement. However, it looks like our UDC does allow it if our engineer makes that recommendation. So for instance, UDC section 18.17.j allows for the city engineer to recommend the construction of sidewalks be deferred to a future date under special circumstances. And although that verbiage says under special circumstances, but it is written that there is a possibility to defer sidewalks to a future date. And it does specify in such cases the applicant could, but it does not say shall, which shall is a must, do an escrow account. So this kind of looks like our option one could be backed by our UDC section 18.17.
Very good.
And part of the city
she slept
engineer's
at a Holiday Inn
recommendation
last night, man.
is an escrow.
I've just been thinking about this.
Well, here's the other thing that I would like to say about this item specifically is that Mr. Hicks points out that the city didn't even bother to put a sidewalk in. Right. I think overall the reality of it is we have no plan for what our UDC says. Both sides of the street have to have a sidewalk, and so now we're trying to piece together on every applicant that comes down that wants to. I mean, I can't even tell what she's doing to the property different. It's all inside, and yet somehow sidewalks came up. So, I mean, I think there needs to be a much larger plan. Let's be honest. The UDC in downtown, in the old town, whatever you want to call it, is a mess. And if you went out and enforced it strictly today, everybody would be shut down and half the people would be homeless because it's just not right. And what?
You kick me out of my house.
Well, are you really SF4?
No.
Okay. So the problem is that the UDC in the old town, downtown, whatever it is, I forget what we call it, is a mess. And we're going to be forced with constantly this kind of thing. What we really need to do, again, starting to look long range, is we need to actually go through there and figure out what we want to do, what it should look like, and then maybe we need to take that to the voters as bonds, or we need to put the sidewalks in as the city, like they did down Main Street when we did that project. But the reality of it is forcing everybody who, calls an electrician out to build a permit and then say, oh, by the way, you need to put sidewalks in is just kind of silly. And we've got to come up with a better way to do this down there because the mess was created years ago and it's just continuing to be a problem.
I totally agree. It's a huge mess, having a patchwork of sidewalks where one house has it, and 2-3 more down
And
don't
it
have
looks
it.
like we're making somebody do it, but not anybody else.
Yeah,
But
it's
Here's
stupid.
here's the city saying you got to put in a sidewalk, and they didn't put one in.
Right.
We didn't put one in.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you can go,
I agree.
508 Main Street.
Yeah, I think we ought to put it on a bond in
It's a-
the year
it's a
24
mess.
for the next election. Put a bond out there. How much does it cost to put some sidewalks in downtown?
Motion in a second, right?
I put a motion.
Maybe a couple $100,000, something like that.
Seconded. You did?
Yes.
Okay.
So there is a motion,
Yes.
first and a second.
I'm sorry, I missed it.
I made the motion.
Hold on. So the motion would be for one.
To grant
For
the
option
variance.
number-
To grant the variance. And to come back with an agreement. I'm assuming the agreement will come back to council for approval.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So option one is the motion, and you seconded it, Norma?
Mr. Mahoney.
Oh, Mahoney did?
Yes.
Okay, we'll start with you, Councilman Benson.
I don't like this motion. I want variance without money, but I'll say yes to get it get Ms. Kearns going.
Aye.
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 Thank
Okay.
you. We will work with the city attorney's office on those documents and bring it back for that vote. Thank you.
All right, now we're going to executive session, whether you like it or not. 14.
Yes, sir.
Executive session. The city council will meet in executive session as authorized by the Texas Government Code, section 551.071. Consultation with attorney, and 551.087. Economic development to discuss the following. A, development requirements under code and public improvement agreement regarding Buffalo Crossing 2.
Okay. Time.
The time is now.
Mayor and council, thank you for considering this item ahead of some other items. I'll be brief. I'm very pleased to introduce Dr. Tom Longoria, who's a professor at the Texas State University. And he and I did not work directly together in my previous meetings with them and heard him give presentations. When council said it wanted to do a resident survey, I reached out to my former colleague at Georgetown and had Dr. Longoria copied on the response. Come to find out, Dr. Longoria lives in Shirts, so he really knows that area.
Sorry.
And so he has over a decade of experience doing this kind of work and other statistical work. So I'm just very pleased he was willing to entertain doing the resident survey for our community. I will tell you that he always delivered on contract and his word at the city of Georgetown. And so I'm going to be short and say I'm introducing Dr. Tom Longoria, and he has a presentation. He is seeking your feedback. I am seeking your feedback on this survey, which is part of your package.
Welcome.
All right. Well, you guys work hard here.
Every time.
Impressive, very impressive. I mean, we can start the presentation. I'm Tom Longoria, got a PhD at Texas A&M in 1994.
Whoop! Oh, Aggies?
Graduated high school.
Here we go. I would present the basic methodology and approach of the survey, what this project's all about. We want you to get your permission to proceed. This is the desire of the council. I want you guys to take a look at the survey questions. You might have a chance to look at these in your packet. We've got a timeline that we're going to discuss very briefly and really talk about one of my major focus of the project is to get a good representative sample for the city of Cibolo. That's one of the biggest benefits of contracting now with the university or an outside researcher, try to bring you the best data possible. If you're going to do this kind of a project, let's try to get it as close to right as possible. I've been at Texas State for a good number of years. I've done these kinds of projects and the cities listed. I'm not going to go through too much detail. I know you guys are working hard. I went to Georgetown about over the last 10 years. Kyle a couple of times, Buda a couple of times, Hoyle 4 times, Rutgers Heights recently, and San Marcos recently as well. You'll notice a lot of cities will continue doing these kind of resident surveys year after year to try to see if they can detect any changes or improvements. For example, in service provisions, some cities will do one maybe once in a while. There's no right way. I think this is the first. I know that this is the first survey y'all done ever. So there's going to be some deep challenges in getting a good response rate, I guess, and strategies to try to make that happen. I will tell you over briefly. I also want to thank you guys for considering, council for considering working with the university. I'm trying to tell you guys on this. We do this
back to 2016.
As part of the service function of the university.
Grown a lot since then.
So what the final charge for this is quite a bit less than
I think people are a little more tech savvy than back then. It was like over a decade ago, about a decade
by saying
ago.
we give our students a great opportunity to do research and work on this project as well. So you're going to get students in here working on data, collection, data entry, working on presentations, et cetera, to give some good real world skills. Yes, sir.
So you're saying the college students will be doing is this going to be a semester or is it going to be a couple of semesters? Okay.
I appreciate you asking this. It's going to be, I'm the honcho here. I've been running the survey. The students are going to be acting as assistants.
Okay.
The students are not the primary labor here. This is my work, my organization. The students are involved.
Okay.
Get them on task.
I just want to make sure because if you're doing one semester, I've got a daughter that's in college right now and, one semester at a time. So if you've got these students doing it this semester and then they're in another class the next, you just kind of rotate it and keep it going. Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you.
We've got a pretty tight timeline, you'll see, and the students will be involved along the way. We're going to random sample 25 households. City of Cibolo has about 9,000 to 10,000 households. This is a pretty good sample size. They're going to be sent out via mail. One of the reasons I'm here before you is your residents might be asking, what am I getting in the mail and why? It's going to be a survey inside of the number 10 envelope from the city. So there's going to be the city logo on the outside. Inside will be the survey itself and some instructions and some background. So be prepared for maybe your residents to call, I don't get this, why are we doing this? So that's kind of how the function. That way they'll open the resident survey.
We encourage them to get it done.
Absolutely, they'll be encouraged to get it
Take
done.
Katie,
The mail
She's going to go
survey
door to door.
postage,
10,000 houses.
come back. Generally Some Spanish speakers might prefer to do this in Spanish. I make that option available. It's almost never been, actually, it's never been taken up, even once over the years. Most folks that have some Spanish dominance still read some English, if they have an interest in the survey. In Spanish, I make that opportunity available to them by request. I expect to get a response rate between 15 and 20%, which is the industry standard for mail surveys. If the response rates are coming in below that, it's a fixed price contract. I'll do another reminder mailing to try to get that up as close as we can with the reminder. To get much better than that, you've got to spend $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, and that's not the intention of that. The expected margin of error is plus or minus 5%. An important thing that we offer as part of this arrangement is, in addition to the random survey, random sample survey, we do an open survey. So this is another opportunity for you to communicate with your constituents. All residents will have the chance to participate in the survey. Once the random survey closes, the open survey, will open. And any resident within city limits will have the opportunity to participate, even if they weren't selected for mayor. So that's good for you all. The questions are a combination of Likert scale survey instruments. That's the familiar scaling. In this case, excellent, good, fair, or poor. That's fairly standard. Demographic questions are asked. There's a good number of focus areas or topics we'll cover. There's also an opportunity for residents to ask provide their top priorities, some open-ended responses as well. And important for the council to know when respondents write in their views, their ideas, their feedback, all that's going to be keyed in and entered and typed and provided, so you guys have not only the numerical responses, but also any written ideas and words they express when they have the opportunity to do so in the survey. Those are the base focus areas we look at: quality of life, mobility, economic development, public safety, streets, service quality, media usage, perceptions of government overall, how they interact with city employees, and give them a chance to comment on that, perceptions of safety and overall value of services for the taxes that they pay. You'll hear a lot of times survey type folks, quantitative data folks talk about things like benchmarking and comparing against other cities. That is possible. You saw the list of cities earlier. We have some cities that are about the same size. However, I'll provide some basic comparisons, but I'll remind you guys, I'll caution now and caution in the future in the report. Making comparisons is very, very difficult. For example, why would we want to compare results in 2023 and results in 2021 in the middle of COVID? So right there you see a number of problems. But I will provide some comparative data to see where things are more or less in line, and some things might be worth talking about a little more with caution when you make those kinds of benchmarking comparisons. The timeline, we're getting the feedback from you all today. Again, there's a copy of the survey in your packet. As we move forward, I want you guys to know you have an opportunity to suggest questions. I think one of the things I like to hear from council, hey, why is there a question on this? And we had a question on that. We have time to do that. Yes, sir.
Yeah, because that's exactly what I was thinking. Is I want to have some useful questions that we can make decisions on. You know, like I'll give you an example. Like right now we do twice a week trash pickup during the summer, right? And so you live in Shures, right? So you get it year round. However, ours ends at the end of September, and so we're constantly getting questions from our citizens saying, wait, when's our last day to get twice a week trash pickup? And I have to tell them, well, it's the end of September. And then they say, well, the next question is naturally, well, how come we don't do it twice a week year round like Shures does? You know, the neighboring city, they're right there. Why do they get it? We don't. You know what I mean? So that would be like a good question that we can, that we could put out there. Like, would you prefer twice a week? And if so, were you willing to pay, extra for it? Yeah. And actually give them the actual cost, give them the cost today. And, including the increase that we're going to have to pay, and then also give them the estimated cost and say, with the cost increase in mind, is that something you'd be willing to pay extra for? You know what I mean?
Good.
Perfect. Yeah, because that's what I love to do is to get information we can all take action on. And know that what the majority of the citizens want, instead of us just kind of up here saying, well, I heard from 10 people and they want it. But is that really what everyone wants? Yep.
So yeah, we can put on questions like that. We can put that one exactly.
Perfect. Thank you.
Well, to add to that, kind of like us going before a bond, asking for a bond next year.
Yeah.
And what we're going to be putting on.
Like with the animal survey or the animal hospital or animal shelter.
See what
Yeah.
People, before
Yeah.
we go and throw it on a ballot.
Right.
We still should put it on a ballot, but.
It gives us a good ballpark,
A, B, C.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good idea. And then also like the fire station, Yeah.
For those kinds of items, there'll be some questions that might be improved or changed a little bit,
Mhm.
but we can make room. I'll get a list of those items from city staff and
Cool.
we'll modify the survey for you.
And when do you need all this stuff from us?
Yes.
We want to go into the field starting at the beginning of October.
Okay. So this month.
Couple weeks.
Okay. This month. All right.
We get the survey printed and mailed October 1.
Okay.
We can leave it, the random sample open until, say, mid-November. We'll slide the deadlines here.
Right.
The open survey link will open up toward the end of November. We'll have the data coming in December. The students will be working over Christmas, if they like to see it.
Perfect.
Well, except on Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, of course. And then we'll get some results back to the council. I like to give a draft presentation or a pre-presentation of the results with city staff. They give you feedback and guidance. They'll come and do a presentation in front of the full council.
This is a list of cities.
Sometime in January. So that's going to be our deadline.
So it's a quick. Okay.
I like that.
There's a couple of reasons why you want to go quick. For example, if you keep it open for too long, events happen, things happen. You also run up against the Christmas holidays. People don't tend to worry about things like surveys at Christmas. Same thing with the users. So we'll go quick, we'll go fast, and we'll get some good quality data.
Are they anonymous surveys or are they linked?
Thank you so much for asking that, council member. All surveys are completely anonymous. That's one of the main benefits of contracting out. I'm forbidden to ask any identifying information by professional research standards. Furthermore, the residents should be informed and are informed in the instructions. No city official, staff, or council will touch the data. It's going to be secured on my computer in the office. It's locked, password protected. Everything's
Encrypted.
Okay.
I could fix that.
Does that mean the only way is returning it by mail the only way that people can submit?
No, sir, the random sampled individuals will have two options. One will be to return via mail, and one is to complete the exact same survey but electronically using a system known as Qualtrics. So you might have done some online surveys by now. So that option is available. I find that some residents will use that online version of the random sample survey, but a lot of people like filling them out, talking about them over the kitchen table. You'll get some good quality data with the mail surveys.
Yep. So you'll have both options. You'll have the online one and the mail for.
Well, for the 2,500, they can do one or the other. And then after the 2,500 deadline, the whole entire city is going to have that option.
Yeah, and that'll be more on the web,
Yes.
to go on. Okay.
Yes.
A very common question is, how do I know that the people that are filling out the wide open survey are in fact within the city limits?
Yeah.
In that case, I ask them to identify the closest intersection to their home.
You know what you could do is you can get the account numbers for all of our bills. You know what I mean? And you can cross-reference the account number.
That's
I mean,
a lot of
this is a
work.
legit deal. If you have because everyone has an account number with their bill, because everybody lives in the city has a bill, right? And so once that account number's
Not necessarily, because I'm going to tell you, I've got people in Marion.
But they don't live in
still have
Cibolo.
soon.
We don't want them in our survey. People in Marion?
They're in Cibolo.
They're in Cibolo, but they got a Marion
They
mailing
live off of
address.
Fort Lenny Road, 465. They got a Marion.
So they don't get a bill from us?
No, because
For
they're
trash?
out of SUD.
What about trash? How do they get their
Well,
trash?
I'm imagine they've got, because of where they're at, there's like 8 homes out there on 465.
Well, okay. Well, he can put those in the mail for them. But we need to filter this thing down so we know it's not people from random cities.
Well, the direct mailer is not. The direct mailer is verifiable in
Yeah.
city limits.
People
because
don't
it's
do
going directly
surveys
to them.
anyway. I doubt they're gonna do a
Yeah.
random survey in a town they don't live in.
You'll be surprised.
That's exactly right. You think all those people out there ready to game the system now? They don't have that kind of time. But
isn't published with Clearinghouse. I mean, there's no money at the end of the trail here.
When somebody fills out the survey, it triggers an electronic survey triggers an IP address.
Yeah.
It's unique to each computer.
Okay.
So if there's somebody with
Yeah, the same IP address over and over again. Okay.
So it's not
All right.
typed, it has polling data at random, but it's just good to give people an opportunity to get involved.
Okay, good.
And the results are presented separately. So
Okay.
there's no contamination.
Cool. Yeah, sorry to get too technical on that.
You guys are hardworking council, I'll tell you.
Yeah, this is an early night for us.
Mr. Reed goes, oh, yeah.
It doesn't need to be early, though. I mean, it doesn't need to be.
Yes, it does.
No. It doesn't need to be.
The city staff's got a great media plan. We talked with the folks over there already. We're gonna get, I'm gonna break down the results by race, ethnicity, income, age, et cetera.
Oh, sorry.
Somebody's
One person watching.
So we're going to break down the results. A lot of times you'll see that some responses, for example, renters tend not to fill out the surveys. I'll do some initial work to see if we're getting a representative percentage of renters. If not, I'll oversample them a little bit. Same thing with income, race, and ethnicity. We tend to find older folks respond, younger folks don't. I'll try to target that a little bit as well. We're going to encourage residents to reply with the customized envelope as well.
So you're saying the renters don't, but if they're a resident in the, I mean, they're a resident,
Yeah.
but they're renting.
Yeah.
We have a lot of that because of the military.
Right.
You know, you've got people that, some military members come in, they buy their home, and then they move on to the next station, they'll rent to another. So how do you go about making sure that the renters, we still want to hear what they have to say?
Right. Well, it goes to the very, very correct. It goes to the holder of the utility account. And so if it's a landlord that's somewhere else and they receive the bill and they're paying, they'd be taken out of the analysis. They would not be selected for the random sample.
Okay.
But most of the renters will have their own electrical bills assigned. They'll go there. What I'll do is I'll sort by, if I see an apartment number, I'll sort those by apartments, and then I'll oversample those apartments a little bit more than would be expected to try to get some more renter respondents.
Okay.
It's the most reasonable way to do it, frankly, and it works out fairly well. I've heard some feedback on some question ideas. I'm going to commit to get that back to the city staff. Just to summarize, maybe some yard waste pickup and some other trash frequency pickup questions, and maybe some bond items that you might want to kind of get a little feel or pulse on the community.
Yeah, we'll get those to our city manager, and he can send them to you.
Outstanding.
Will that work,
Yeah.
Mr. Reed? Okay.
So that, again, I'm just, in fact, I live in Seguin. Maybe that's worse for you guys. I don't know, or better. Not sure.
Not
Oh, okay.
sure. Sorry, I misspoke.
Well, Seguin's good. I mean,
That's what he said.
Well,
I go out there weekly because I go to Commissioner's Court. So, I mean, and I
Yeah.
went to TLU as well.
there you go. Now, I would have moved to Cibolo if you guys had a golf course. No, I'm just joking. Put that on that's a joke.
Well, I like that.
All right, that's my present. I know you guys are working
Okay.
hard, trying to just be a little bit of levity,
You know
keep
what,
you guys
one that
working.
would be a good question is, a community swimming pool.
Yeah, email it to him. Why not?
I know, I don't.
And
I'm
splash
not big on
pad,
it,
too?
but-
Yeah.
But that's one, would y'all be interested in paying some higher
Yeah,
taxes
right.
to?
So at least we'll have data to back it up.
Okay, I'll do that too. Yeah, that's going to be hard to get price estimates for that. But we'll get them to estimate. Yeah. There are some good parks questions that the city staff gave me with feedback and some good specific park items that I think are also actionable. So we have moved the survey in that direction a little bit, Mayor.
Perfect. All right. Well, yeah. So everybody, if you have potential survey questions, please email them to Mr. Reed, and he can get them to the doctor before the end of the month.
Don't call me doctor. My dad says I can't prescribe medication, so I'm not a real doctor.
I've got a friend that she just recently.
He's having a heart attack over here.
It's her doctor. She recently became a doctor.
Yeah. You're not a real doctor.
They call me doc because I'm a medic in the muscle.
All right, y'all.
Well,
Keep
thank you
on
so
working
much.
hard.
All right. Appreciate it.
Take
Thank
care.
you so
Yeah.
much.
Good night, sir.
Okay, we're going back to 13B, discussion action and authorization for the city manager to execute a work order with Freeze and Nichols to complete a water system hydraulic modeling study in the amount of $65,000. Mr. Foose.
I like the
Not here
execute
today.
part.
I'm sorry? Oh, there you are. Sorry, I was looking for you over there. You snuck right past me.
Man, I disappeared that. Okay, sorry. I don't hear myself, but now I just realized we don't hear ourselves on here, do we?
Nope. Sometimes.
Good evening.
Too
We're
loud
discussing a work order with Freeze and Nichols to do a hydraulic model on our water system. Our water system's never had a hydraulic model done on it. We've been expanding the water system for 25 years. We've added one complete new water system on downtown. Multiple water tanks have been added. We've added multiple pumps. We've added water mains, distribution mains, and transmission mains all through the community. We've never run a water model on that. The importance of a water model is to ensure that, A, we're moving the water through the pipes at the recommended velocities. You can overspeed water, which causes erosion to valves and internal parts of the pipe. You can underspeed water, which causes for high levels of detention when the water is in a pipe for too long, not moving to its final destination, which is consumption. You have chlorine loss, and then you have the ability to build in the system what are called trihalomethanes, THMs. As the chlorine decays, it leaves behind THMs. The object is the water should be moving at a certain rate through the entire community to all areas. We have valves all over the place. What we can do is some of the valves can be partially closed, which increases water flow in one direction, slows water flow in another direction. It also ensures that we're providing good fire protection through the entire community. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
So we're testing the water system. We got it. All right. Katie?
I make a motion to approve.
Oh, I was wanting to speak. I thought you.
Oh, no, I said I make a I rescind. Go ahead.
Is this going to help with less manpower by having the ability to control this?
Sir, this is a water modeling on how the water actually
I understand.
moves through the
So
pipes. It's not a manpower related issue. It's an efficiency issue on how the
so
water
how
is
have we
managed.
gotten away without this having this?
We actually asked for it 5 years ago, but it didn't make the budget at that point in time for budgetary reasons. I asked for it in 2019 or 18, excuse me.
Is anybody complaining? I'm asking, I'm just curious. I mean, I would think if we had a huge problem, we'd know, right? Because people would be like, hey, I turned on the faucet and there was no water.
No, sir, that's not what this does. So essentially, we have mains that run through the system that are large diameter mains, which are moving water to different neighborhoods all the way around. We have 16-inch mains, 24-inch mains, and 20-inch mains. The object is to ensure that the water is moving through all of those mains at the right speeds and in the right time so that we don't have water that's over-detained and we have a loss of chlorine within the system, because it's very difficult to detect that unless we start checking all the faucets for chlorine, and we don't do that.
Okay, so would this have helped us with Winter Storm Uri at all?
No, sir, it wouldn't have, because our water system didn't fail. Our ability to get water from our supplier failed. We never had a problem with our system. It was the ability for our provider to provide us with water during Winter Storm Uri.
Mr. Foose, maybe council needs to hear the benefits of
That's
this.
what I'm needing to hear.
So
'cause I mean,
what,
$65,000.
from the data you get back from this study, what would you do to improve the items that you said this study will tell you?
Okay, thank you. That's perfectly good question. The object of the study is to ensure that we're providing water flow into all of the neighborhoods without any delay or restriction. We also need to ensure that the water is moving between the different water tanks at the right velocities to ensure the water tanks are staying full and the water is fresh as it moves through the system. If we have areas where the water is slowing down and it's being detained, which means it's in the pipes longer than it should be, it affects water quality. We are very concerned about water quality through our system. The system has basically tripled in size over the last 15 years as far as the amount of homes we're servicing now. We want to ensure that we're moving the water properly through this system in all directions at all times. We have areas that are far away from our water tanks. We have areas that are very close to our water tanks. The object is to make sure the system operates efficiently at all times to provide quality water.
So, Mr. Foose, if you get back from this report areas that the water's not moving properly through, what do you do?
So in this case, we would look at whether closing valves partially to restrict water flow in one area to move water in a different direction around. So in our system, we have major mains that run east and west through the community. We have one that runs across on Green Valley Road. We have one on Weidner Road. We have one that loops FM 1103. The object here is that in some cases, we may want to restrict the flow in one direction to force flow to come another direction, so we're making sure the water stays clean. It also reduces the amount of times we have to flush the system to get the chlorine level back up by ensuring the system is operating efficiently. When we don't waste that water in flushing, it just basically saves us the money because we're paying for that water.
All right, we got a motion?
Yeah, that's the logical, that's where the money savings could come potentially.
Yes, sir.
Is not flushing the water out. So basically, it's to eliminate like a dead leg on your system where it's going to sit stagnant.
Or a leg that's not moving fast enough to keep the water quality high enough. This way we get fewer complaints about water quality.
One other thing I thought I heard you say was that if it's going too fast, it can damage parts.
That's correct. When water starts to move past 15 feet per second through a pipe, the water starts to cavitate, causes air bubbles to form. The air bubbles the same as running sand through the mains. It'll start to eat the mains from the inside out. Very similar to how an air conditioning system works when you've got too much air in the system.
Okay, just a friendly reminder, we have 4 items, including this one, to vote on and 17 minutes to do
Make
it.
a motion, we approve the study. Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. We'll start with Councilman Hicks.
Aye.
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 All right, moving on to C, discussion action and authorization for the city manager to execute a work order with Collars Engineering to complete the required engineering service.
Yes, sir.
Geotechnical services, surveying, design, bidding, and construction of a new sanitary sewer gravity main to the Wheel Road lift station in the amount of $53,060. Mr.
This
Fitz.
is an ARPA funded project. This is to remove the lift station that's currently fractured in the ground at Countryvale at Wild Road. We wanted to move forward with this earlier, but we needed to go back out and have our engineering reaffirmed, having the correct language within the engineering contract. So this has been on hold for about 6 months. We'd like to get this one moving forward so we can get this project going as quickly as possible.
Okay, so once we have the lift station, we're just going to tear it down, we're going to fill the hole up? I mean,
Yes,
how's
sir.
that
The
going?
lift station comes out, the hole will be filled, and we'll salvage all the pumps, parts, and generator for future use.
Who's going to maintain that property? Does it go back to the HOA or?
No, sir. It would be retained as city property. We'd still have several manholes on here, to transfer manholes to go in.
Okay.
To coming in where the water would be transferred into the gravity main.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve 13C as written.
Second.
Yeah, I got a motion and a second. Councilman Benson?
Aye.
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 Ayes have it, 7-0.
Can I ask who seconded that, please, Sir Foos?
What's that?
Mr. Cunningham, thank you.
All right. Number D, discussion action on the expiration of the COVID-19 public health emergency declaration and the expiration of resolution 1610. Mr. Knott.
Mayor and Council, I'm coming forward tonight to talk about these 2 resolutions that were passed, previously one in 2020, one in 2021. As you know, the nation has ended the public health emergency in May, and the state of Texas ended the Texas public health emergency in the month of June. So we're coming forward tonight, 1, to remind the council that our public health emergency still exists, and 2, it's staff's recommendation that we expire both of those resolutions at this time.
Okay, do we have a motion to expire the resolutions?
Motion to approve D and expire COVID-19 public health emergency declaration.
Second.
Resolution 1610.
Robert.
Second.
Okay, I
1
got
and 2.
Got a motion and a second. We'll start with Councilman Hicks.
Aye.
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 Ayes have it, 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Knott. All right, so E, discussion action on city council casting votes for the Guadalupe Appraisal District Board of Directors election. Mr. Reed.
Mayor and council, if you're looking at your cover sheet, this is new for me to do, but I received this letter and felt obligated, of course, then to bring it before you. So what the cover sheet says is the terms of all Guadalupe Appraisal District Board of Director members will process for directors to serve the next 2-year term. The City of Cibolo will have 212 votes to cast for the 2024-2025 Board of Directors election. Votes may be allocated to one nominee, or votes may be distributed to more than one nominee. The nominees who receive the largest cumulative vote total are declared the directors for the next 2 years. I provide the timeline for this process on the cover sheet, so I'm seeking direction from you if you would like to nominate someone to be on the Board of Directors for the Guadalupe Appraisal District.
So do we have any information as far as who's running?
Well, I will tell you, I believe last time we put forth Daryl
Doug
John.
Garrett or something like that?
No,
Oh.
Daryl John.
But isn't he he's our tax collector, though? Can he also
Yeah,
serve on
but
this
he
board?
can serve on this board.
Okay. Yeah, I'd vote for him.
I would suggest, I mean, we move forward. He's been doing a good job of doing that. I have no problem putting them all towards Daryl John, but if anybody else has anything.
Is there anyone?
And we gave some votes to him, but Daryl John won out.
So Daryl John definitely is running again this year and wants our votes,
Yes, he's
right?
still on.
You're sure
Yes.
about that?
Yes.
Okay, then I agree. Anyone have any other nominees?
I'd say we put them all to Daryl John.
Okay. All right, we'll do a, you make a motion on that?
I'll make a
Yes.
motion to nominate Daryl John, all 212 votes.
Second?
Okay, I got a motion and a second. We'll start with Councilman Benson.
Aye.
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 Ayes have it, 7-0.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Mr. Reed. All right, moving on to H. Discussion on the trees on Cibolo Valley Drive and the sidewalk at Legacy School. Councilman Roberts, you have the floor, sir.
I think I've spoke with Mr. Reed. The citizens I see some concerns about some of the trees coming back up, and I think you'll have a plan once it cools off to do some more grinding and put some herbicide or something down there. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. So that we won't have the trees growing back over and over
Have
again.
them regrowing. And I know Councilman Higgs saw some mesquite coming up through we probably need to get those.
And that one's been resolved. I turned that into C-Click Fix, and it was removed.
Well, that was my question. It was cut down, but did we pour anything or get something on it to keep it? Because
I'll speak with the streets tomorrow, and Mr. Foose is looking at me, and we'll make sure that it was treated. And he can provide an
you got
answer
the
if he
answer,
wants
that's
to
great,
speak
because I
up to the
sent an email
microphone.
back saying it's great, but I just want to make sure, because that mesquite tree's going down, it's still going to continue to grow and pop back up, so.
So just real quickly, from Kelly Craighead, they bought a chemical called Tricera, which is tricloper 356 something. It's a giant name.
Yes.
We've already injected it into the tree stumps that are out there. We did that earlier last week, around Wednesday or Thursday. It's an injection. We put it into the tree stump. A certain amount of ounces go into each tree stump. You're supposed to wait 30 days to see if the tree starts to show any new growth. If it does, you do a second application. At that point in time, there should be no new growth from the tree. We'll treat that tree, the mesquite thing. We'll ensure that we use the same chemical there. It basically is a chemical that kills the tree, but it doesn't poison the ground all around it. It stops the tree from photosynthesis.
Well, it's in the street, so it's not going to kill nothing around it other than because that was, I don't know if you saw the pictures, but that was clearly on the street.
We will ensure that that does not.
And I'd like to also, since we're talking about the street lights, the trees, there are multiple trees that need to be trimmed back, because you can go along Cibolo Valley Drive and the flashing lights are flashing, but you can't see them because the tree growth has got them covered. And I don't want one of our citizens, well, I didn't see it until the last minute, and they get a ticket, even though it should be slowed down for school zone. I know that they're blocked, and so we need to make sure that all of our, just going around a curve, driving, you can look and see there's certain ones that are blocked. So
Yes,
if
sir.
we can get out there and get them trimmed back, please.
We will trim the ones that are blocking the school zone signs.
Yes, sir.
The ones that are blocking the street lights that are up higher, those trees along Cibolo Valley Drive are actually
Not worried
owned
about
by the
those.
HOA.
I'm not worried about those. I'm
Just-
worried about the ones that are blocking
Got it.
the school zone lights.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Can do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And my other item is legacy, where the sidewalks mismatched. Have we had any movement on them correcting that?
We have, sir. So our city engineer, Chris Otto, has been working with the project engineer employed by Legacy Traditional School. This week, he finally got a response, and that response was that the general contractor who made the improvements has given them a change order. I emailed the CEO for Legacy Traditional School, and he and I had an exchange. I wanted to make sure it was at his back to their GC this week with an executed change order. They were looking at the change order and felt some items were a little pricey, and they wanted to contest those prices. But his commitment to me is that they will authorize this change order quickly and get the GC to work. The one thing about the change order is that there will be a handrail for a portion of the sidewalk, and in the change order, there is a 14-week lead to get the handrail. And my response was, that's too long. You need to get that to be much shorter. So what they will do is where you see the exposed ground is it will be just concrete from the sidewalk to the back of curb. Where the slope and the height require a handrail, the handrail will be installed. This is all at the cost of the school to design it, to install it. It's not on the city.
I guess my question to that is, instead of putting the concrete, you go down Cibolo or Schertz Parkway, and you've got the decorative bricks. I've got some in my front yard that you can build up. Would that not be possible to put that in and then fill that in with dirt?
Are you talking about the brick pavers, or are you talking about imprinted concrete?
Well, they're pavers that you would. They're stackable pavers. They're not the pavers you use to drive on. They're if you go to Cibolo or Schertz Parkway, you can go and you can see what I'm talking about. They're pavers that the sidewalk is like this, but they've got the ground, so they're walls basically.
Right.
Could they not use that? I mean, it'd be a lot cheaper.
I could ask
inexpensive for them,
Mr. Otto, but it's a very short distance, and you're saying
I know, and that's all
stacking.
that's for. That's what that would be for. And then they could fill it in the back of it with dirt.
I can make this suggestion to the CEO if they would look at that, but
because
Chris
concrete's
Otto,
very expensive. I'm just saying. I know
It'd
that
probably be cost prohibitive because they'll have to have a hydraulic engineer and everything else. Am I correct? Because the water's going to get behind that and it'll push it out to the roadway. Yeah, it's concrete and it is unfortunately not aesthetically pleasing, but it's probably the cheapest. If they'd done it right the first time, that's what we should have shot for, but I guess we didn't have everything lined up properly.
Okay, so this one didn't necessarily have a vote, but you know what to do?
No, sir. It was just Mr. Roberts wanted to discuss it.
Okay. You good?
And again, in my update that I emailed right before I
saw
went
that.
over for a 5 o'clock meeting, I sent out a comprehensive update and gives you all the details that we discussed, plus more on CVD.
Thank you, sir.
Ponding,
The ponding is in the punch list that we did on. I did not do it. It was Mr. Foose and others, both at Borgfeld in CVD and at Bentwood Ranch in CVD. So there was more than one location on that, but all things have been documented, and the contractors agreed to make all those corrections.
Yeah, thanks again for getting that stop sign installed but in front of the Bentwood Ranch pool. Looks good. You mean the orange cones?
No, the center.
The center ones.
The ones that are in the road. The orange. They keep getting.
Well, somebody's already started, and I'm going to help them here soon because it's getting ridiculous. Somebody just winged one off to the side the other day. I don't know if they hit it or what.
So those were put up to call attention to a new stop sign.
Yes.
And to reinstalling stop signs, so that Mr. Foose just said those will be coming down this week.
and I think they were actually effective.
They were
You thought
effective.
it was just a way to weave in and out of traffic?
Seminars, events, or meetings.
I've got a couple of things. AAMPO, we had a Union Pacific Railroad rep came Friday, did an excellent presentation on safety, and they're more than willing to come and do a presentation for us at no cost to us about railroad safety. Guadalupe County Commissioners Court this morning. There was a state of disaster for the county that they put a declaration in for the drought. Yes, sir. And Mr. Troncoso, Chief, need to be keeping all our books on every fire that we go to because of the drought, not just a fire, but okay.
Drought-related fires.
Drought-related fires.
For a
yes.
special fund because of the emergency.
Yes.
Declaration.
Yes, sir. And then we had our TML Region 7 meeting last Thursday. Thank you, Mayor, for showing up. Thank you, Ms. Sanchez, for being there as well. I'm president for the next 2 years again, so keep it up, guys.
Yeah, I just wanted to say congratulations, Joel, on getting reelected for president, and also wanted to thank you, Peggy, for coming out there and helping.
Peggy and Valerie both.
And Valerie too, yeah,
Excellent
Peggy
job.
and Valerie. And then also wanted to thank a couple of those sponsors, 1911 and 1908, for donating
Absolutely.
some of those door prizes.
I
Those were
wanted
great.
to thank both of them.
Ended up winning one. So.
Yes.
Is that legal?
So.
You can win something?
That's all I've got.
It was all elected officials. I mean, everybody won something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's what they say.
All right. So, yeah, that anybody else
It's
have any
less than
items
$50.
for events they want to, or anything fun to talk about? Katie?
There's a, it's not one I went to, but on the 23rd, there is a child passenger safety event at the Shirts Playscape by the library. This is a free car seat event where if you have a kid in a car, you can come and see if they're in there properly. Shirts, Cibolo, and Selma PD all have child passenger safety technicians on staff, which is something that's not super common anymore. So it's really great that our communities invest in making sure that we have staff available and ready to assist families who are in need. We can't predict how other people drive. We can't make everyone drive well, but we can make sure that our kids are installed in our car seat in the best way possible. We also have the HOA Knowledge Workshop. Number 2 will be September 30th from 10 to 2. We had our first session about 3 months ago.
June 24th.
Yeah. So we will be having the second session, and we'll put out the location and all of that when that gets closer.
Anyone else have any items to talk about? Anybody? No? All right, so moving on to item number J, discussion on items City Council would like to see on future agendas.
I've got something. I had a resident send me this text message. Can you put an item, and I told her that it was too late for today, but because I got this Saturday, can you put an item on the council agenda? I'd like to have our city to ban the churches and business closures, vaccine mandates and mask mandates to preserve
We just repealed it with D.
freedom. Well, that's a different one. That's for, I'm just reading what she put, mandates to preserve personal freedom. It was just passed at a city, Huntington Beach, to
Yeah, I got
ban
that
those
same email,
requirements.
Joe.
So
Yeah.
I just want to let y'all know, I mean, if we can put it on there, I don't know that we can ban it. I mean,
It's up to the private property owners. The state, the governor's already given the guidelines banning, making a
Closure.
requirement on any public facility. But for private businesses, it is up to that private.
okay.
Yep.
So we do not have the authority to tell them they have to, they can't have that. They aren't allowed to ban masks.
Okay. I just wanted to pass along what my constituents sent me, so
I hope.
I'm up, taken care of.
Okay, so I'd like to put an item on there to take a look at TH and GH zoning. These would be two new zoning categories. TH would be for townhouse zoning, and GH would be for garden home zoning. And then also have a review of SF4. It seems as though planning and zoning doesn't like SF4, so I wanted them to take a look at it and find out what exactly don't you like about SF4. Do you want a deeper backyard? Do you want more room between the houses? Is it the dimensions? You know, what is it that's because they seem to be reluctant to approve planning and zoning, right? And so I wanted
The
to.
only time they're reluctant to it is when it's being asked to be rezoned to SF4.
Right, yeah.
from
So
something else.
therefore, let's take a look. Let's have planning and zoning look at SF4 and modify it to make it palatable to them. You know what I mean? And then take a look at townhome zoning and garden home zoning. Maybe these would be new zoning districts we create, categories, things we could put on the menu. And I think that's about it.
Putting it on the menu to discuss, but I mean, I think this should all be part of the, if this is something that's even, it goes back to something I sent a while back. Commercial property 1103 is constantly being said it's too deep, which is why we get all these requests for multifamily.
Yeah, like the property right next to New Life.
So we need to figure out what too deep is. If it is too deep, then we may need to engage, but I think that needs to be part of the master plan and try to figure out where those line up, because we can have a conversation and find out that, to your point, nobody wants to build SF2. You might find out, I mean, I've been on planning and zoning begging people to look at, townhomes, and we finally got some out off Wheel Road or Wild Road, right? They finally put some in.
Yeah.
Chesmore did, but at the price point they were at, because I was interested, it was insanity. I mean, they didn't want them for renters. They wanted you to own your townhome and live there for the rest of your life.
Some people want that. I mean, when you're over 80 years old, you don't want to deal with the
I'm
yard.
I'm just saying that price point for them was whatever, but there might be other opportunities, but it doesn't seem like anybody's interested, because you're right, we don't have a townhome.
Yeah, but maybe the reason why they're not building is because it's not on the menu. Maybe they just pass us by and they go on, over to
Or they just wanna
Buda.
make it
I don't know, somewhere.
Or they just want to build a dental clinic or a storage unit.
So I have a couple.
Okay, Katie.
So when we had a meeting a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, we were talking about different roads that we were funding, and I asked about Buffalo Crossing and where that was at. I want to know what the status is on that. I feel like I'm missing something. I looked through my emails. The last email I had was that a letter was going out to residents, and I've gotten nothing since that. So I just want to know what's going on with Buffalo Crossing, because I'm getting questions from residents that are like, it's not painted, we don't have stripes, you told us you were going to fix the road, you were going to do this slurry, and now what? So now I need to know what's going on with that. The animal committee a while ago, more than a year ago, I don't know, I don't see Huggins in here. I brought up that I wanted to discuss creating an animal committee. We have the animal advisory board that has a very specific purpose, but I wanted to have another board or commission or committee that was a group of people who were interested in doing similar work to what the Parks Committee does, but with the animals, where they were able to do fundraising ideas and events and things like that. I had spoken to the manager the shelter manager at the time after bringing that up, and the shelter manager at the time had a list of different ideas to engage residents in a give more volunteer opportunities, basically, that encompassed everything that my idea with the committee was going to accomplish. That has not happened. So I want to revisit that, because I have more and more people. At our last meeting, we had a gentleman who was looking to be involved in animals. I've had tons of people reach out asking about that, so I want to look at that. Either actually revise our animal volunteer process, or put a committee together and give them specific duties. Like, hey, reach out to the rescues, or hey, let's do an event where you are in charge of coordinating all the adoption events. Try to take some of that pressure off of our staff and get our shelter a little less full. There was another urgent alert put out today on Facebook from the shelter. They're taking in 7 to 10 dogs from it. Seems like a hoarding situation. We're already over capacity as is, and adding those dogs in is even more. They got like 6 kittens today or more. So we've got to do something, and we have all these people who are willing to help, and it just seems like a really big wasted opportunity. Their passion.
My wife adopted 2 kittens.
We need the city staff if we're using the trailer that we have, because I don't want.
No, I
Billy
mean,
Bob
I don't
going
mean
pick up
like,
the trailer and take
no,
them
I
out
don't
to
mean
the
like
event.
pulling the trailer. I mean like
Okay.
coordinating with Tractor Supply, that they can go out there and set up on this day, or
Right, but
Garden
you-
Ridge
you want
Market
staff to
days.
be able to take
Yeah,
over out
but staff could say, we have these weekends available. I have staff who can go
Okay.
out, find me somewhere to go.
I'd say like at these sporting
They're doing a
events.
great job on social media. They're doing a great job on adoption events and getting those animals out as fast as they possibly can. But we have people who are willing and passionate, who want to work. Let's use them. It's free labor. We need to use what we can when it's free. And then I want to eventually, I know she just started, but I want to get a grant update kind of every so often on what grants we've applied for, what's been approved, what's pending, if it wasn't approved or selected, what the reasoning was. Because if you aren't selected for a grant, you can request a meeting with the entity that you applied to and get their recommendations on what to fix. So that would kind of give us an idea, like, you didn't have enough data on XYZ. We can look at that and say, well, let's get funding so we can get that data. So.
Absolutely. Would you like an email from me with that update, and whether or not it's a presentation you can?
That's really
respond?
fine.
Okay.
Just some kind of update for all of council that we can all see kind of.
Absolutely.
What's the progress being made.
Absolutely.
Yeah, what are we getting for our grant writer?
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things that I question.
I mean, she's only been here since like
I understand. Yeah.
March, or no, I'm sorry, May, the end of May. I think it was
mean,
like June.
I'd give it a good for a lot of stuff, especially the more money you apply for, the more they ask for.
No, reasonable request. We are tracking all of that
Perfect.
because we know you expect that there are a number of grants applied for. We hope that we win many of them. So we will get that update to you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have any
Yeah.
items they want to add? Yes.
One of the things that I noticed in there is that she'd mentioned volunteers. One of the we do our senior center over here. We provide Meals on Wheels, basically for Cibolo shirts and Selma over there. Accordingly, we need folks that will deliver Meals on Wheels. So if you've got anyone that wants to participate, be involved, I appreciate that. In addition to that, Thursday, 10 o'clock, I've got another ACOG meeting for seniors. So the wheels continue. I know. Hey, I'm the old guy. What do you want? Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Dick. Nobody else? All right, moving on to item number K, discussion action on the review and confirmation of all upcoming special meetings and workshops, and scheduling the time, date, and place of additional special meetings or workshops. Ms. Simics. It's like next Monday, right?
I thought we talked about having parks on that meeting too.
They're invited.
Well, the one I saw didn't say more parks. Okay, got it.
We should invite them though, Peggy. I mean, they serve on Parks and Rec. I mean, if they can make a choice if they want to come.
Well, but I understand it, but I think if we're gonna, I remember at 12 something at night having this discussion, but I think that we need to know what the Parks Commission thinks, not what the three people in the subcommittee think. I mean, I feel like we're sort of moving into this channel of groupthink anyway, and I think we need to spread out and say, what do the actual people on the Parks Commission, not the three subcommittee people, what do they think?
Yeah. No, I totally agree. No, I mean, yeah, the subcommittees are valuable to get us all to channel all that information and bring it back to us. But I do think it's smart to have this one meeting, get all three, the full EDC, the full parks, all of us, and get together and talk about it. And then we can make that decision. So thank you for putting that together, Peggy.
I would request, I'm not sure if it's allowable, but Robert Teese was very active in that. His term just ended. Is there any way he can
He's a
come?
citizen, yeah, why not? Yeah, he's welcome.
Okay.
Sure.
He was just very active in the entire process from the very beginning. He's very knowledgeable. He was the chair of the EDC. His term just expired in July. I don't have a replacement yet. I cannot appoint a replacement until October. So, yeah, I know. But I can't appoint him until October. So, I mean, District 4 is not represented at all if we're talking about wanting the full representation.
Mayor and council, also at the last council meeting when this was discussed, the only additional information that we noted was, well, how will we deal with tree mitigation? So we're asking our consultant to do an overlay, which isn't a tree survey where they're actually GPSing them, but trying to see where those existing trees are that would be in the new construction area so that we can give you an idea of, yes, some trees absolutely are going, which we know. We also heard, well, park staff was using the facilities on the back of the park. Where are they going to be working out of in the future? So we're going to have information to provide in response to the things that we heard. I need to send you an email. Maybe it's tonight. Just saying, do you have any other questions that you want answered at this joint meeting? And that way, the staff and our consultants might have a few days to formulate and collect the information that we would need for you to be more informed at this meeting. So
Sure. So what deadline would you need, maybe by Friday, or is that too long?
if you can get us something by Friday, it won't be in a packet, but we'll be able to have information for you as quickly as possible. Yeah. So if you get us something by Friday.
Right. Okay. So yeah, if anyone has any questions about land swap, please send them to Mr. Reed by Friday. Okay. Moving on to item number 16, adjournment. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. We are adjourned.